with other girls on the side, but we have yet to see any proof of this. Irregardless, Myron clearly feels a lot of gushy feelings towards his girlfriend, and it's hard to rationalize that with the cognitive dissonance of what he preaches. On top of that, Myron often says that clubs are terrible. You should never go to clubs. The club is for idiots, 1 to 4 times a year max, and it better be to celebrate a big accomplishment. If you go every week, you're a loser. Lyron is the king of hypocrisy. One of the most egregious things that Walter and Myron have continually done is invite younger girls onto the podcast who aren't at the legal age where they can drink, and still they blatantly give them drinks on their podcast.
I'm underage. Fuck you. I don't give a shit what age you are.
A Redditor posted a compilation of incidents where it appears that they offered underage girls drinks.
I'm Ashanti. I'm 18 years old.
Cheers to Thursday with the ladies.
18. I'm 18 years old.
Is this a high value man? Is this someone that anyone should remotely listen to for any sort of advice? Not only is he a hypocrite in every way imaginable, but he has to resort to giving underage girls drinks on his podcast for content, which is just not cool behavior in any way. It's like the guy who graduated high school 10 years ago but still goes to all the high school parties. It's loser behavior.
I saw a guy Lambo with a bad
Now let's examine some of Walter Week's behavior and his fraudulent nature. Walter often advertises a very flashy lifestyle on his Instagram. From the looks of his Instagram, you would think he was a multi-millionaire.
He's got some bling, he's got a thing. I don't know if he has a Rolex. Okay. Is that a Lamborghini? There's another Lamborghini. There's another Lamborghini. There's you on a private jet. Scroll down.
I could be hurt.
Okay, click the one with the 3 cars on the far left. That's your 3 cars. God's plan, blessed and highly favored. Okay, the one with the umbrella. Why do you have an umbrella, dude? It's sunny.
Though when Fresh and Fit went onto the No Jumper podcast, Walter made it very clear that he intentionally fabricated this entire online persona, this entire Instagram feed, specifically so that he could get women.
I saw a guy pull up at Starbucks, right? In a Lambo with a badass chick. I was like, yo, who is this guy? Why can't that be me? I found out that it's all a perception. I built up my Instagram page. I used to go to the club every night for girls, right? Now, you have to watch me through my pictures, commenting on my stories, and I was like, damn, is it this easy to attract girls to you?
Yet Walter and Myron constantly talk down on women on their podcast for what they post on Instagram, claiming that if they post photos of themselves looking hot, that they're salaciously trying to advertise their profile to men. But I'm starting to realize that that's just entirely projection. Walter's entire Instagram profile is him advertising himself as a jet-setting, flashy, wealthy man. And he makes it clear that he does this just to advertise his page to women who'd be interested in him because of the life he portrays on his Instagram.
So normally speaking, right, girls don't respond to most guys. But if you stand out by having the following, the lifestyle, guess what? Now she's going to respond to you.
There's even a clip of Walter showing off his car to a woman, and she tells him that his car will probably attract other women and he'll probably get them pregnant.
You like the new car or no?
I think it's sexy, and you're definitely gonna get every bitch in Miami pregnant. Please strap up. Hey, it's only cheating if you don't wrap up. So wrap up, and then you can anyone, right?
Quite the foreshadowing. The facade that Walter puts on seems to be very purposeful, to illusion people with the idea that he's a figure of authority because he has wealth and status, and to attract women by making him seem more marketable. The exact same things that Fresh and Fit shame women for doing, they appear to be doing tenfold. The Fresh and Fit podcast continually shame S-workers and shame men for paying for S-workers.
Well, I'll say this.
Go ahead.
You pay for hoes, I don't.
And yet, we know at this point, that is something that Walter has consistently done.
Thanks.
With that level of hypocrisy, you have to wonder at this point if everything they say is purely projection. They're telling men who pay for S-workers, who care deeply about relationships, essentially that they're worthless, yet that's the exact same thing that Walter and Myron consistently do. So maybe the shaming that they're doing to those sorts of men on their podcast is really just a form of self-hatred. They hate that they care about these things. They hate that they do these things. So they shame others for doing them as well, for being so dependent on women. And so of course, they hate women too, because they need them. This level of self-hatred becomes really obvious when you start to see some of the hateful beliefs that Fresh and Fit have continually perpetuated on their podcast, including inviting very hateful men as guests on their podcast.
Come on, Nick, what you got?
Fresh and Fit invited a man named Tommy Sotomayor on their podcast. Tommy Sotomayor is a conservative political commentator and what he describes as a men's rights activist.
So we're allowing these women to just have kids with dudes who are in and out of jail, dudes who don't have jobs.
In fact, most of Tommy Sotomayor's posts are just him critiquing black women.
I think the first one that went viral was called "The Type of Black Woman Everyone Dislikes."
Speaking of women, you know, I've heard over and over that you hate women, and you especially hate black women, and you call them the B word, and I've never heard you call them B word. Do you call them?
Oh, I do.
So during a Fresh and Fit podcast with Tommy, he told a black woman sitting next to him that her weave is too tight and she needs a different type of glue. Says the bald guy. Sorry, I know bald shaming is very hurtful, but this guy deserves it. And then Tommy went on to call her ignorant, dumb, and a stupid B word. So of course, this woman defends herself. A fight breaks out, which Tommy clearly ignited, and the two of them had to be separated by security.
Is your weave that tight today, man? Is the glue who's playing you, stupid? Nobody's playing your goddamn thing.
At this point, I do want to note that there's a pattern of these red pill manosphere podcasters specifically targeting black women. Kevin Samuels, Fresh and Fit, this guy. I'm sure there's a lot of layers as to why this specifically happens, but from my, of course, very limited perspective, I think that these podcasters noted that their specific audience engages with videos when these podcasters target black women because it plays into their viewers' already bigoted, sexist, and racist beliefs. Black women experience the intersectionality of both racism and sexism, and this is the perfect example of this taking place in real time. If someone is subconsciously or consciously sexist, they'll enjoy a video of these podcasters attacking a black woman. If someone is subconsciously or consciously racist, they'll enjoy a video of these podcasters attacking a black woman. I also think that for many of these black manosphere influencers, it's easy for them to target and go after someone who's discriminated more than them. It's easier to do that than it is to go after systems of power that are actively oppressing you, where the odds are stacked against you and it's pretty much impossible to win. Going after black women, blaming black women is a scapegoat for their own oppression, unfortunately. And unfortunately, it will not solve any real problems. But Fresh and Fit continued to platform more men a part of the manosphere and even more hateful, bigoted people, leading them down a darker and darker path of self-hatred, harming their general worldview and eventually their businesses as well. So Fresh and Fit continued to host terrible people on their podcast, even if those people were aligned directly against Walter and Myron's best interests. In July of 2023, Walter and Myron invited the controversial Nick Fuentes to be on their podcast. Women manosphere influencer Pearl also did this. Sneeko also did this. The fact that so many of these manosphere influencers actively platform someone with such extreme beliefs shows the pipeline that takes place when you engage with this sort of red pill content, leading you further and further down extremist beliefs. That's because Nick Fuentes is an American far-right political commentator who's known for his white sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and Islamophobic views. Basically, every sort of phobic, bigoted beliefs one can have, Nick Fuentes has actively preached them in their most extreme manner. In 2017, when Nick Fuentes was a freshman at Boston University, he traveled to Charlottesville, Virginia to attend the Unite the Right rally, which was a meeting of violent hate groups, white supremacists, white nationalists, and neo-Nazis. Something that Nick Fuentes does that I think is really important to talk about is he often coats his most extreme beliefs and viewpoints in humor, which can be described as a term called irony poisoning. This tactic is often used by extreme online conservatives, basically because it allows them to claim that they were just joking if they're being criticized for their rhetoric. There's a whole host of reasons why this is problematic. I mean, obviously. For example, even if these people were actually joking, neurodivergent people might not be able to discern that. It also adheres caters to the young male demographics idea of being a funny edgelord, though it's very clear at this point that no one is just taking these statements as a joke and brushing them off completely. These young men believe what these podcasters are saying, and it's dangerous. These podcasters can claim that their statements are just jokes, and you're the one that's silly for taking them seriously in the first place, but all the while, their followers are taking it seriously. During his time in the spotlight, Nick Fuentes has praised Hitler. YouTube does not like that name, so we'll call him H-Man from here on. Nick Fuentes has fantasized about marrying a 16-year-old and has self-described himself as an incel. Incel is a combination of the words involuntary celibate, so you can see that Nick Fuentes' views are really working out for him, and it'll just benefit men as a whole if they listen to him. Or maybe we'll have a world full of incels who become more and more bitter towards women who are not sleeping with them. So Fresh and Fit decided that it would be a great idea to invite Nick Fuentes onto their podcast, as well as a panel full of women of color. An entire panel full of women of color with Nick Fuentes right in the middle. It feels like Fresh and Fit were trying to have another violent interaction take place on their podcast. They were undoubtedly putting these women in danger by inviting them onto a podcast with such an actively racist man. And they continually egged on Nick Fuentes and the woman of color on their podcast so that they could have another viral moment and get views. Clearly, there was absolutely no concern for these black women's safety. And of course, the topics that they ended up talking about on this podcast mostly pertained to Nick Fuentes' views on color. Not so that Fresh and Fit could challenge him in any way, no, so that they could encourage him. Either way, whether or not they wanted some sort of altercation to happen on the podcast, it seems like they were deliberately trying to shame and embarrass black women on their podcast by having this white speak so disrespectfully right in front of them. In the podcast, they encouraged Nick Fuentes to say the N-word, and he did just that. Hard R and all.
Come on, Nick, what you got?
This incident, alongside the clip of Walter and Myron talking about how they don't date black women, just further showcased their own self-hatred and how far they were willing to degrade themselves for the sake of views. Maybe one could say they were whoring themselves out for content. Maybe they were the true 304s all along. But soon enough, those views that they themselves out for would completely vanish, karma catching up with them. Now, before we get into how Fresh and Fit were demonetized, I want to note there's an interesting pattern where these red pill influencers continually platform Nick Fuentes and then shortly after get demonetized or deplatformed. From Just Pearly Things to Sneeko to Fresh and Fit. In fact, just recently Walter Weeks spoke about this phenomena, how white men in power will hide behind those in a lesser position than them just to utilize their platform. Then they will completely abandon them when they're no longer famous or just can't be used anymore.
They come into the space and say, oh, he's status and power? I'll be your friend for a little bit. Yep, buddy. I'll use you. And then once you finish, you get banned? Bye-bye. And then when you get banned, they say, oh, you did it to yourself.
Myron is silent the entire time.
But saving you guys is better.
Again! You f***ing idiots! I'm not going anywhere! I'm staying right fucking here! Alright? These guys were with me in my darkest times. I'm not gonna f***ing leave them in their darkest times. F*** you motherfuckers! I got my real estate, I got my money, I'm fine! I'm not going anywhere!
We made moves on the side knowing that this could potentially happen.
So this is the beginning of the end of this era.
We don't know what could happen with YouTube.
In August of 2023, Fresh and Fit were finally demonetized on YouTube. In fact, Fresh and Fit and all other channels that may be owned or operated by Walter Weeks and Myron Gaines were completely demonetized, meaning that Myron Gaines no longer gets AdSense off of his true crime podcast. And Myron announced the apparent end of Fresh and Fit in a live stream.
We gave up so much to give you guys value. Imagine giving up your entire life to support people that you care about, even at the detriment of you losing your job, you having social life.
We need you guys to save us.
Myron then talked about how he left his job to pursue social media because essentially, F them kids.
I shouldn't be admitting this, but saving children, right? That was great, but saving you guys is better.
Yeah, man, this is tough, bro.
Fresh and Fit continue talking about how they've saved so many lives with their podcast.
I was arresting bad guys, etc. We started this podcast. When you guys send me your DMs and say, yo, you saved my life. Yo, you send me a picture of your credit score. Yo, my girl is making sandwiches now, or whatever it is, right? That really means a lot to us.
In rare circumstances, YouTube may reinstate a demonetized channel, but it's really not likely. So all of those years that Fresh and Fit spent building up their platform have now come crumbling down. Myron claimed that Fresh and Fit cover uncomfortable conversations about uncomfortable topics, which is their explanation for inviting people with poisonous views onto their show, and continually putting women in danger with both their actions and their words.
And the thing is that you guys know, right, on this pod, we push the edge, right? We push the envelope. We're not going to lie about that. We're talking about certain points, and we've brought up certain points that might not be politically correct, right? That might not necessarily align with everyone's viewpoints.
Having uncomfortable conversations is something that a lot of podcasters, political commentators, and journalists do. The thing is, they do it with such an unbiased tone and in such an in-depth way that it gives the topics the justice it deserves and examines the core issues at play. Fresh and Fit have never done that. Fresh and Fit have very strong, biased opinions, and they've simply created an environment entirely within their control, where they can skew a biased conversation to their liking, encouraging certain people and cutting off others whenever they please. If the conversation makes them uncomfortable, then it's not allowed. Walter and Myron also never did any self-reflection after their channel was demonetized. They didn't consider whether the topics they discuss are contributing to a lot of hate and vitriol. Instead, Walter and Myron just continued down the path that was already set, simply moving to a different platform and perpetuating the same views.
We need you guys to save us. We need you guys to support us on Rumble, because that's the last bastion of free speech at this point.
Fresh and Fit moved to the platform Rumble in order to promote free speech, aka them monetizing their hate speech. But since Rumble doesn't have the same means to pay their creators like YouTube, Fresh and Fit have to basically rely on super chats and donations to keep their business going. Meanwhile, the Fresh and Fit YouTube channel is losing views at a drastic rate, though it seems like much of their toxic beliefs have still taken root in a lot of young men, which will be a problem that I'm sure will continually resurface in the decades to come. While Walter and Myron have continually tried to reinstate monetization on their YouTube channel, nothing has worked. So in a last-ditch effort to try and monetize their audience, Fresh and Fit put a lot of their content behind a paywall. Their fans could now view their content on their platform called Castle Club, but they had to pay $35 a month. Now, of course, these former fans of Fresh and Fit became very concerned with the high cost of viewing their content.
We're gonna raise the price actually from 17 to 35 after Wednesday.
So now they're gonna put him behind a paywall at $35 a month. Well, the fans are not happy with it. They in the comment section just ripping them apart. You lied to us. You said you would never go behind a paywall.
You could subscribe to numerous different streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, and still not reach $35 a month. So apparently, since Fresh and Fit believe they're high value men, the value of their content is so high that it's more than all of these streaming platforms. But in response to discussions over the cost of Castle Club, Walter called his audience brokies if they didn't pay for Castle Club.
No brokey shots, you see Avery. Notice how the guys that make money don't complain about the Castle Club is the important.
By the way, if you're a brokey in the chat, I'll call you a brokey just because you don't want to support. That's understandable. What I will say though is, like, when you see the value in the Castle Club, you're like, damn, you know what? Yeah, I need to be a part of that.
Walter and Myron are dependent on men paying for their lifestyle. What does that remind me of? All the women they've ever shamed on their podcast? Again, does this mean that the real f***ers all along were Walter and Myron? The funniest thing that Walter and Myron have done in an attempt to make money is when Fresh and Fit hosted an overpriced yacht party. This yacht party took place on August 10th of 2024, and Walter and Myron charged their male attendees who were desperate to be in the same room with a woman over $1,000 for this party.
So how much was he charging to get on the boat to the man?
1,000 plus. Some of them 3,500.
And how much was the lady charge?
Free.
This yacht party that Fresh and Fit threw remind me of that scene in Always Sunny in Philadelphia when they talk about the implication, where the character Dennis claims that inviting women onto a boat is a good strategy because of the implication that they can't say no because they're stuck on a boat.
We can't refuse because of the implication. They're running away. Why are you scared? Oh, God damn. They're scared.
But the footage from this party is embarrassing. Walter and Myron claim there'd be tons of beautiful women on the boat that these men would get the opportunity to socialize with. But instead, men are standing around awkward and completely clueless while all the women just sit with one another and completely separate themselves from the men.
And like, these women did not want to talk to the dudes, and people basically paid $1,000 so they could go stand around and watch these women not be. And you could see it the whole street. They were not getting play with these women.
It's worse than like an awkward middle school dance where all the girls stay together and all the boys stand together.
I don't want to hear none of you red pill dudes ever mock a woman selling her farts when these dudes paid $3,000 to be trinkets and ornaments while dance with each other.
For nothing.
Never again.
Clearly, Walter and Myron want the exact type of woman that they claim is so bad, leading me to believe that much of this vitriol that they spew towards these women is just bitterness over them not having been picked. It's like the opposite of a pick-me girl. They're angry that they were picked, so they lash out in bitterness.
You know what you guys are? You guys are the dudes in middle school who hate on a woman you actually have a crush on.
A woman posted screenshots of her experience attending this extremely embarrassing yacht party. I went to the Fresh and Fit Rumble yacht party last night. They were begging for girls, promising free drinks, and loaded us all on board after doing a meticulous head count, which again is giving middle school dance vibes. Then they said each drink is $25. $25 for a beverage? I saw a girl end up actually paying $150 for 3 drinks. We were told to unload because there were people who shouldn't be on the boat, but it was a lie. Just because Walter, at Fresh Prince CEO, wanted a grand entrance with all the women lined up outside. There was no space for us on the boat because there were so many strippers and escorts on the second floor. The boat never left and instead did a circle and docked back. That's also so embarrassing. Imagine you're told you're going to an awesome yacht party with free drinks, and instead you have to pay $25 for a drink, and the boat just stays in the dock area the whole time, just going in circles. It's like a merry-go-round from hell. There was no party. He lied to get all these women here for photo ops. The party was posted everywhere for socialites, Tabler, promoters, and Fresh and Fit affiliates asking for women to come. We were not offered free drinks, and we were told to just get on because someone would buy us drinks. I'm not going to be trapped on a boat with some man buying me drinks and be expected to sleep with him. Again, the implication. The best part of this entire thing is Myron once tweeted, if she posts photos of herself on a yacht, she's a whore. Further showcasing Myron's hypocrisy. Fresh and Fit also allegedly had a minor at the yacht party who they were serving alcohol to, yet again. But it seems like this last-ditch attempt to make money wasn't that successful, and the Fresh and Fit podcast continued on its stark decline. And because of that, Myron specifically began to lash out more and more, perpetuating extremely hateful views. The Fresh and Fit demonetization caused Walter and Myron to go full mask off, posting some of the most heinous and hateful shit online. Myron calling a black man a monkey and saying he should pull up by committing auto theft. In August of 2024, YouTubers Abba and Preach uploaded a video titled Audio Leaks, Fresh and Fit Wish They Were White, in which they showcased an all-white Twitter space that Myron had joined.
Like, girl, I'm ready to end them. Like, they want to go here and say, girl, Myron, cool.
When Myron left the Twitter space, they immediately started talking behind his back, claiming that no matter how much their ideals aligned, Myron was still not one of them.
Myron's been worshiping white people, from putting on the hood to working with dudes who basically want him erased. This is one of those Twitter spaces he was in.
Yeah.
So look at what it's called.
Lit comfy hours, whites only.
And pandering to white people does seem to be deeply rooted in Myron's past. Growing up, Myron didn't have many friends who were people of color. In one resurfaced clip, Myron said "we" when referring to white men, which is kind of sad.
You know, I've noticed with black dudes, they don't like doing that shit. white guys were all like, yeah, well, I said we.
But as Myron's self-hatred reached a boiling point, he began lashing out more and more for attention. And unfortunately, Myron's an example of what can happen to men that are deeply entrenched in the red pill community. Often they just dive further and further into self-hatred, like the darkest sides of the incel community, and they become part of the alt-right, spreading more hatred that only further consumes them. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe that no women want to sleep with you, then you act that way and end up fulfilling your own self-beliefs. And Myron, with his fallen platform, has turned to the darkest sides of the manosphere.
Racism is awesome. Making fun of people because of the color of their skin or their stereotypical background is awesome.
Myron has also made a ton of anti-Semitic comments, to the point that it's concerning. Even Walter called Myron out on his focus towards the Jewish population.
Hold on. This is very important. Pointing out who's behind the scenes, pulling strings, what does that do? Someone please tell me, what does that do?
Well, a lot of people probably didn't know that just now, and now they know.
What are they going to do
behind the COVID thing?
What are they going to do with it?
America's forefathers fought to have a free country. The Haitians fought to get their freedom from France. That's what you call fighting for something you believe in. Dudes like Moron be pump faking. No plan, just crashing out, trying to be edgy. Mofos can't point to any official document or piece of literature that substantiates their worldview. They just regurgitate what they heard in passing from someone else. Then when you check them on it, they go into troll mode. Myron, alongside fellow banned red pill content creators, have further escalated their beliefs with a weird obsession in H-Man and Nazis, spreading the common white supremacist talking points about how H-Man actually did sound good.
It's a fact that he absolutely did save the German economy. He definitely did a bunch of things correct for his country.
You know, 6 million people. Who gives a fuck about the good things you did?
Well, it wasn't 6 million.
I never understand this argument, because everyone knows that H-Man did a lot of evil things, which completely erases any of his prior actions. This is obviously not an equal comparison, but it reminds me of a person that's in an abusive relationship where their partner ends up hurting them deeply. Most logical people are not going to say, well, your partner actually did some good things, like when they paid for that date or went to your birthday party, because nothing matters above the harm or atrocities enacted by said person. Not that the two situations are comparable, but it's the only thing I could think of to explain how flawed that logic is. There's been these red pill echo chamber chats that were posted onto Twitter in which Adrian Dittman, aka Elon Musk, was a part of these spaces and partaking in these conversations with Myron Gaines. I mean, there's still a lot of speculation as to who exactly Adrian Dittman is. Either way, he's either Elon Musk himself or an avid Elon Musk superfan. And Elon even pushes back on Myron Gaines, saying that his ideas are ridiculous.
I don't believe in any of this. This is some bullshit. This is just bullshit. I'm not gonna argue history here. I'm way too tired for that.
And it's actually embarrassing looking at some of these clips where Myron's talking about H-Guy, because everyone laughs thinking they're all so cool or edgy for saying these things when they all just look pathetic.
Y'all wanna call me cool?
Now, let's fucking do it.
Hey guys, when we speak, everyone raise your hand. Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
No.
So we take turns.
No.
What are you doing? What the? Oh, come on. No!
Myron even told another influencer he would put him in a C camp if he was president.
For vice president of the United States, I'd have your fat ass in a camp where you can concentrate on diet and exercise, you fat fuck.
In September of 2024, Fresh and Fit were banned from Twitch in the middle of a live stream when Myron was going on a rant against other streamers. Now that Walter and Myron were unable to post or profit from their content on both Twitch and YouTube, Myron and Walter were losing their supporters and the main source of their income, which just caused tension to rise in their relationship. On Rumble, Walter and Myron ended up getting into a heated back and forth over who was responsible for their ban on Twitch.
This is crazy. Is it Fresh that got us banned?
No.
Nah, bro. Don't put it on me.
But people ask, Myron, do you regret getting demonetized? No.
And now that Fresh and Fit ultimately have a terrible reputation, they can't lure in any high-profile guests. No one wants to be associated with them. So Fresh and Fit have to rely on their core audience, their super fans that they've already indoctrinated, to have any sort of revenue. However, the younger portion of their audience will eventually grow up. Eventually, maybe, hopefully, get laid, and hopefully hopefully see through the Fresh and Fit facade. The fact that they are complete frauds, spiraling the podcast into further irrelevance until one day, hopefully soon, it'll completely die out. Since the Fresh and Fit podcast is virtually finished, recently Walter, Fresh Prince CEO, the brains and the charm behind the whole operation obviously, started his very own podcast.
Fresh is really going his own separate way. Has changed his YouTube name from the Fresh Prince CEO to a new YouTube channel called A Fresh Start.
My own podcast called A Fresh Start. We're going to be doing a breakdown of the truth about dating.
Since Walter has been slightly pushing back on Myron's outrageous beliefs as Myron makes the descent into extremism, it makes sense that Walter would do his own thing, but the podcast has failed to gain any substantial traction. So while it's possible Walter and Myron will embark on their own separate journeys, their online career is continuing. For now, it seems the story of their joint venture, the Fresh and Fit podcast, has come to an end. Fresh and Fit is ultimately the story of the biggest frauds in the male podcaster arena. Walter and Myron created entire fake online personas to profit off of young, vulnerable, naive men, only to become the biggest hypocrites imaginable and do the exact opposite of what they tell young men to do. This is a story of the danger of microphones being mixed with misogyny, and a testament to how being total frauds can only get you so far. And that's it for this video. To everyone who's made it to this point, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm so grateful to you all for wanting to watch my content to this point. I also hope you're having a great start to your new year and have a ton of plans for my content this upcoming year. So I hope for my journey and for yours, it's all positive things up in this 2025. I don't know, maybe that's too optimistic considering some of the circumstances. Let me know what you think of this new set. Also, I thought it was time to be a little bit more professional and shake things up, and I hope you like it. I'll see you in the next video. Stay well until then. Bye!
On Wednesday of this week, the so-called free speech absolutist Donald Trump took a sledgehammer to the First Amendment by signing an executive order that basically prohibits foreign students here in the United States on student visas from engaging in any form of protest. Well, I guess that's not exactly accurate, right? It's not any form of protest that he's banning them from. It's just, you can't be pro-Palestinian. If you protest in support of Palestine, Donald Trump's executive order says we can deport you for that.
That's awesome.
Let me read this to you. He has directed the Justice Department to prosecute terroristic threats, arson, vandalism, and violence against American Jews, and to use the necessary federal resources to fight what it called an explosion of anti-Semitism since Hamas' deadly attack on Israel in October 2023. The president said that he would also cancel the visas of students he considers Hamas sympathizers, describing college campuses as infested with radicalism. So, the first part, okay, if you're a student over here and you engage in terroristic threats or arson, you know, basically if you commit horrible crimes, we're going to deport you. A lot of people may see that and think, well, yeah, that makes sense. But then it gets to the nitty-gritty, right? If we consider you a Hamas sympathizer, you're out of here. That's based on our opinion. Not a law, right? Certainly not anything in the Constitution. It just says if in our opinion you like somebody that we don't like, we can ship you back. Here's the thing. Nobody is protected in terms of committing violent acts. You will face justice for that, obviously. That's a given. Unless you're like Donald Trump, then of course you get off scot-free. But anyway. However, every single person within the borders of the United States is protected by the U.S. Constitution, citizen or not. So these students that are here on student visas, while they may not be citizens of the United States, they are still fully entitled to the full protections of the First Amendment of the United States, meaning they have a right to peaceably assemble. In fact, reports have shown that even though we saw all these reports of the horrible pro-Palestinian protesters doing these god-awful things. More than 97% of all of the protests that took place were completely peaceful. More than 97%. Are there gonna be random anarchists essentially out there in literally any protest for anything? Absolutely. A lot of individuals will use these opportunities not because they support the cause being protested, they will use these as opportunities to just be violent. There's infiltrators in every protest virtually that ever happens. But to single out this group, to say that, oh, if you're pro-Palestine, we can ship you out of the country, is number one, unconstitutional, and it's not gonna stand. Hopefully. I mean, we've already seen some pretty good things from the judges handling Trump's orders. They've kind of been pretty good on it so far. Hopefully this one is next. But this is blatantly unconstitutional. It's un-American. And it's absolutely an excuse to target students that Trump doesn't like to get them out of the country too. Thanks for watching, everybody, and if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. We got fresh content every day for you. And if you want to follow us across social media, make sure you check out all of the social links that we have posted in the description of this video.
Hello, and welcome back to Jarvis Johnson Gold, the premium channel that is free. It is free, but if you're watching this, you're premium. And there are too many podcasts. We all know this. I have a podcast. Get it out of here. Delete it. Trash bin, except for all of them. Men shouldn't have microphones, yada, yada. You've been on the internet as well. They won't stop multiplying. And so a guy with a podcast is going to talk about two other guys with a podcast today because I found a really good one. It's the best podcast I've ever seen. And I'm lying. It's called Not So PG Podcast. The Not So PG Podcast, which by the way is not PG, so don't tell your parents about this one because they get a little nasty. Some of the topics discussed in today's episode will be sexual in nature. I know if maybe that makes you uncomfortable, or maybe you're too young. Go away. I'm not here to have the birds and you should not be getting the birds and the bees talk from YouTuber and podcaster, notably not model Jarvis Johnson. So I'll catch you next time. It's hosted by someone named Peter Vigilante. Huge TikToker, hot boy is his vibe. He's got the beautiful AI generated profile picture. He's an actor, a podcaster. He's also a television. He's a multi-hyphenate. Not a lot of people are doing it like Peter, and that's why he's on the run. I don't actually know what his regular content is like, but
So apparently, if you cover your left eye and look up, it turns off the part of your brain that creates anxiety.
Okay. He's also a scientist and a psychologist and a mental health expert and a TV. So no one's really doing it like Peter. Okay, no anxiety. Wow, I suddenly am healed. This is awesome. I'm gonna call my insurance and cancel.
And they say to add a little bit of breathing. You just relax here. And I feel quite calm.
Wow, thanks, Peter. Add a little bit of breathing, which is you always got to sprinkle a little bit of breathing into whatever you do, so that you live to continue doing the thing that you're doing. But this is Peter's vibe. Obviously, he's a genius. We're going to be focusing on the podcast today, but I wanted to give you just a little bit of a primer on Big PV. The podcast that introduced me to the Not So PG podcast with PV, when he had a guest on that I was familiar with by the name of Garrett Nolan. If you Google him, he's an American model, social media personality, best known for his content on TikTok. I'm still in contact with the Wikipedia people to see how I can get American model added to my Wikipedia, because that's really cool. He's done like lots of fun pick-me boyfriend type content, 15 million followers. He does like acting where he's like perfect and amazing at it. My family is broken. You get it. I didn't know he had this here. Sorry, I don't have time to open this chapter. I don't know what I just walked into. I just know him from guys raised by their mom, guys raised by their dad. But like, go off, Peter. You contain multitudes. They had a clip go viral from the podcast that they did together, and that's where we're gonna start things today.
Would you not sleep with a girl just because she's on her period? Or would you be like,
I'd be excited about the situation, actually.
I have a podcast with my good friend Jordan Adika, and this conversation has never come up for us. So I am wondering like what led to this discussion, but the question on the table is, would you sleep with a girl who's on her period, or would you be like, I like how Peter Vigilante goes like, or would you be like, actually I've got a yoga class right now, I can't, things are getting hot and heavy, but I have a prior engagement. Actually I'm a vampire and I don't want to show you that side of myself right now. The side of blood just makes me go, woo. So rain check, the answer to this question doesn't matter. This is like for two parties to decide, right? I do assume that the premise of this is that one party is already like cool with the situation. Garrett somehow finds the worst possible way to answer the question. I'd be excited about the situation, actually. I'd be absolutely thrilled. Consider my interest piqued at the prospect. Ma'am, madam, what are synonyms for excited? Consider me exhilarated, stimulated, delighted, and proud to be in this situation, miss. Yeah, count me in. Not only am I down, but I am positively quivering with whimsy, madame. Milady, not only am I down, but I'm down to clown around town. I've been impregnated with glee in the presence of thee. Before we get into that, we have a brief word from today's sponsor, Aura. You've heard me talk before about the massive data leaks from companies like Ticketmaster and Dell. Unfortunately, this recently happened with National Public Data when over 2.9 billion records of personal information were leaked onto the open internet, including full names, addresses, phone numbers, emails, names of relatives, and most alarmingly, social security numbers. To add insult to injury, data brokers profit off of your data that is available online by selling it to whoever would be interested, potentially scammers and identity thieves. To keep my data secure, I use Aura. Aura quickly alerts me if my data has been compromised and provides swift fraud alerts to notify me if there's been any misuse of my data, like opening a credit card or trying to start a bank account in my name. And if you're not me, that's a problem. Aura monitors your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points, including the dark web and public court records, to detect and alert you to any potential identity theft. Aura actually offers identity theft insurance to protect you from the worst case scenario, but they offer so much more, from transaction monitoring, antivirus, VPN, password manager, parental controls. There's a mobile app. They can opt you out of data brokers selling your information for a profit, and it's all conveniently located in one place for one affordable price. So let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online. Head over to aura.com/Jarvis and get a 14-day free trial where you can see what information about you is out there and protect yourself. Thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this video. Now back to the video.
Would you not sleep with a girl just because she's on her period? Like, would you be like,
I'd be excited about the situation, actually.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say, before Garrett finishes, and look, I am not a period haver, but I would consider excitement a red flag, no pun intended. Yeah? Excitement? That's strange. I'll say it. I'll name and shame and I'll play the blame game, James. You know?
The situation, actually. The blood coming from the cervix.
Yeah.
The blood coming from the cervix. Peter Vigilante. Yeah.
Cervix.
Yeah.
I feel as a transcript should only be present in a podcast amongst gynecologists. Or women. Just not too fuckboys is maybe that's where I draw my line. He's like, oh, yeah, no, I'm following you. I know all the things about female anatomy, in fact. This is like reminding me of that scene in 40-Year-Old Virgin where Steve Carell's character has never touched a boob, but he's trying to like play along with the guys, and he's like, yeah, ooh, yeah, and I grabbed them and they felt like a bag of sand, right, fellas? That's what they feel like. Cervix, I know what that is, and I know where it is. Right here on the right below the neck. You know, I clowned it at first, but I will concede that this is not so PG of a podcast.
Some divinity to it. I believe it has healing.
I agree with that.
What? Based on what? What is happening right now?
To entertain and be a part of.
I think that's how you create a soul tie.
What are we talking about? I want to be a part of? This feels so strange. This is such an odd fetishization of like women's bodies like doing their thing. I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable. Maybe I'm the weird one. They should rename this podcast to the cervix guys, the divinity dudes. Women's bodies, I give that infinity booms because they're perfect. Hi, Peter Vigilante, actor, model, TV.
Create a soul tie, it sure as hell creates a wonderful experience.
If it doesn't create a soul tie, it's like this is like max level pick me, right? This is like Elon Musk couldn't pay someone to boost his account to fight the level boss this is of pick me boyfriend. Ladies, all the parts of you are beautiful to me, especially when you're on your period. That's when I get excited. I want to create a soul tie with you. The soul tie and bond shit, they sound like warlocks, or at the very least vampires.
I can't get my sword a little bloody. I'm not a good.
What? What? Peter Vigilante heard me call him a warlock, and he said, no, I'm a warrior class, baby. I gotta get my sword a little bloody. It's gotta go to war. I don't even want to say that out loud. That's disgusting. What do you mean, brother? No wonder he's wanted.
Get my sword a little bloody. I'm not a good knight.
If I can't get my sword a little bloody, I'm not a good... Oh my God, dude. This is... What do you mean? What is that metaphor? Sex is a battle to you? Tell me, in this metaphor, if you're a knight and your dick is your sword, then what is a woman in the metaphor? You're making sweet love to her on the battlefield? You just stabbed her, okay, with a sword. That doesn't work. Or does it? I mean, you're the vigilante. He says it so nonchalant, too. He's like, if I can't get my sword a little bloody. Like he's a Rupi Kaur poem. Fuckboy Rupi Kaur says, if I can't get my sword a little bloody, I'm not a good knight. The sword is my dick, by the way.
Sword a little bloody, I'm not a good knight.
I would like to say good night because this makes me want to go to sleep. I would challenge, and I mean, this is a thing where like these men know women in their real lives, and this got 585,000 likes. So I wonder what the women in their lives think about this. It is a wild thing to discuss in public, even if you believe that. I say keep it to yourself. As someone who practices, I strongly believe it creates a soul tie. Practice is what? The way of the blade? I'll just say it. The only soul tie I believe in is a swamp, a forest, and an island. That's for my magic heads out there. This probably gets cut from the video, but... So it's awesome, right? The podcast is awesome. As someone with a podcast who posts clips on TikTok that you want to get traction, I've definitely had the passing thought, oh, we should say something really outlandish so that you can take the clip out of context. But at what cost is really the thing. I just can't get over that. So, but I also can't look away. I mean, after all, he is a TV, so I must keep watching.
I'm at the stage in my life where if someone cheated on me and I knew about it and they didn't know that I knew, I would just act like it's another day and there at work. I would move everything out of the house and just leave and never speak to them again.
That's one way to deal with conflict. I'm not a therapist. I'm not an expert in any regard, not like these gentlemen. But I do feel like for your own closure, it could be nice to have a conversation. I could be wrong here, but to me it sounds like if something bad happened to me, I would bottle it up forever and avoid it and never address it again. That's just the kind of adult I am. What happened to not being afraid to get your sword bloody, right? Except for in this metaphor, the blood is the result of emotional conflict and the sword is confrontation. I still don't know if we should ever use that metaphor for anything because it really just feels like you're killing someone every single time. So, forget I said it, but also you shouldn't have said it either. I'm actually at the point in my life when I'm afraid to talk to somebody. I'm at the point in my life where confrontation and communication are things that I do not participate in. I do not believe in them. I believe in soul ties only. I believe in soul, mind-body connections and no words exchanged. If you ever do me wrong, I will disappear into the night, never to be seen again. That's just the kind of adult I am. Model, by the way. If I found out my partner was cheating on me despite our soul tie that had been created through means that I discussed on a previous clip of this podcast, I would actually undo that soul tie. I would take off that full Windsor knot and lay down the tie. Like I lay down my sword, which is my penis. I'm master of metaphors, by the way. I have a podcast.
I've had guys tell me they don't eat that. They don't do it.
And I've had.
When he said that, I thought he was gonna say, I've heard guys tell me they don't eat pussy. That is the most disgusting deplorable thing I've ever heard. If I have the opportunity to eat him, that is a soul tie and a soul bond. And here I have a diagram of the cervix.
You're not going to get anything done in 15 seconds, I'm sorry. I don't care how good you are. You're not.
Yeah.
Things take time, especially when you're working with such a beautifully intricately designed, I love it.
This dude is unreal. It's like he's concentrated pick-me boyfriend into like one substance, and it is this man. I like don't believe you. Ugh, it's just so beautiful. 15 seconds, that's not enough time. Yeah, who is that news to?
Okay, sorry, I was ready with that question because Garrett was looking in the mirror over there and he was going, you know what I miss? I miss eating.
What? Maybe I'm lacking this version of male friendship in my life, but I have never and can never imagine a situation where I'm with a friend and they're looking in the mirror and saying that they miss eating pussy. That is the most maidenless thing I've ever heard in my life. Is the podcast the Not So PG podcast because it's only about vaginas? Because that is like 90% of the clips I've seen of them so far. In different clothes, mind you. I just love thinking about Garrett in full like army fatigues doing a TikTok dance while his friend talks about how he was looking in the mirror and how he misses eating pussy.
I could feel my eyes dilate saying that too, because Peter knows I've been celibate for way too long now.
Is this a cry for help? I think we found the problem. This is vital lore to everything that Garrett has said so far, where he's like mythologizing the labia. You know what I mean? And it also is so dehumanizing to women, right? Like as just like objects, because so far there's been, other than the talk about a soul tie, there's been nothing about the actual connection that you have with a person outside of like a sexual being. I don't know, man. This is sad to me. It feels like they're like respecting women TM, you know? Like they're saying the words that like sound like they're putting women up on a pedestal, but it doesn't like come out like that. It comes out like women are something to be conquered with my sword, which is my penis, by the way, which unfortunately I haven't gone to battle recently, and I was in the metaphor where vaginal sex is battle and you're bloodying your sword. By the way, feminist guys, by the way, actor model TV. And now I'm looking in the mirror and I am saying, man, I miss licking my wounds. None of this is good. None of this makes me feel good. I'm just gonna go back to... Sorry, I just had to do that to feed my soul tie.
And I was like, save it for the podcast.
I do.
So that's why he got so into it.
Like I could feel my eyes dilate saying that.
I could feel my eyes dilate. I'm starting to think that this dude isn't acting in these videos where he's like extremely down bad, emotional pick-me boyfriend, because I feel like he is embodying this right now. He is like stun locked right now thinking about not like a human that he has a connection with. This is him in outer space thinking about going down on someone. He's so horny it's affecting his mental well-being. He's thinking about like a disembodied cervix right now.
I'm doing good. But I looked in the mirror over there for a second and I was not doing good.
Because when I see myself not attached to a vagina, it reminds me of what I miss. What is that? I just don't get this. Is this relatable? 1 billion girls just fell in love with you instantly? Okay, I don't. Okay, well then I just am. I'm missing something. A man who can walk in celibacy and stand proudly in it is a man walking on a whole different level. Is this just saying like a proud incel is our king, is our hero? Bless this man. I volunteer as tribute. I'm out of touch. I'll admit when I'm wrong. This is why these guys are the Not So PG pod. This is why I don't discuss vaginas on my podcast.
You can feel an IUD. It's just the string that's kind of hanging down a little bit low, but it hurts. It feels like a hard metal you're hitting. It's not very comfortable.
It's a nice little surprise at the end.
Is this all they talk about? The sexperts over here? I think it's funny that Vigilante will say something just like very cold that's related to sex or body parts, and then Garrett somehow makes it poetry. Oh yeah, you can feel an IUD. Yeah, I can really feel it with my sword. And then Garrett is like, I call it my little friend. I think it's a blessing. It's a blessing to feel an IUD. I was looking in the mirror the other day thinking about how long it's been since I've felt an IUD. I'm sorry.
In some relationships, it's a thing where like the girl doesn't all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I'm concerned about how many of these clips are about penetrative sex. I just have to say it. Is that the only thing they talk about? Dude, these guys have sex, dude. They so much that it's like they're only, that dude's celibate. And he can't even stop talking about sex. They won't stop. Some relationships, not like any that I've been in, but like the girl like doesn't come. Yeah, that's sad. Not my fault.
I would cry about it.
It's my job.
I would cry about it. Dude, it's like scientifically engineered pick-me content. I would cry if I couldn't please my partner. It's my job as a man, as a warrior even. These clips are so short and they just don't get to anything. So I'm so curious what the long form version of the podcast is like. Like, is it just them like serving up topics so that they can be TikTok shorts? Because I'm gonna find out. Oh, okay, so we're just doing women be different. Women think emotionally. Okay, buddy. He's talking to his friend who was just looking in the mirror thinking about how he hadn't eaten pussy in a long time. And you're telling me that he's not the emotional one. It's women who be thinking emotionally.
You know, why do you keep bringing this up? Why do you keep bringing the past up? She's trying to get over this emotion that you've wronged her. They need you to attack that emotion with reassurance.
You need to attack, dude. Okay, there's this thing in these like boy circles. Emotions are too soft, so you have to use words like, you actually have to attack the sadness with a sword. My penis, by the way. He's like, see what I did there? Look at that face turn. What is this? He's like, am I right, ladies? He really think he ate, dude. He thinks he's like, this is the equivalent of those memes where it's like a dude in a suit with like a Rolex watch and like a fancy car and an inspirational quote, except for it's him doing stretches. And it's not the most stereotypically masculine look, if I'm being honest, but it's certainly a toxic masculine like quotation. No way, is he wearing a Rick and Morty hoodie? This guy's awesome. You just don't have the sick, twisted sense of humor that you would need to like understand this.
Think your partner's sweat smells good? It means your DNA are opposites?
Where is he getting this stuff? I want to know what it's like to just say this shit with perfect confidence.
So it means that you guys would have a genetically very good child.
Every time a man makes fun of like horoscopes or something, or you know, like Mercury's in Gatorade, you send them this. Because you're gonna get some like fucking pseudoscientific bullshit. Your sweat smells opposite, so it's DNA opposite, so it means you'll have a good child. We'll have a good child. It's like he's trying to like butter you up. Wow, I actually like the smell of your sweat, so that means we should have babies.
So it's a good thing. If your partner thinks that your sweat smells good, it means that you're a good fit to have a very genetically strong child.
I don't doubt that there's like studies about stuff like this, but you just can't say it confidently. Call me crazy, but I don't just like spout this stuff out and just say like, yeah, just trust me. Like, where did you get the information, right? Because it feels like when you see a headline about how chocolate is good for you, and then you find out that it's like somebody who paid to be in a scientific journal and the study isn't peer-reviewed, and it's just people take a headline and they run with it. That's like what this feels like.
I was just with a chick recently that had a mirror on her wall.
Damn. That's the ceiling, by the way, Chris. That was great. The wall that's up top is actually called the ceiling. It's the top wall. She had a mirror on her wall. Oh my God, I want to live life like this. It seems awesome. It seems awesome.
And I'm just like looking up, I'm just like, oh.
And you just see the perfect like hourglass over?
Yes, never seen it from this angle before.
I think I'm gonna make a room just full of mirrors.
Mirror rooms.
Dude, himbo life, it seems awesome. You got no consequences, you can say everything, you don't need to know any facts. You're just working on vibes. You're like John Hamm in 30 Rock.
A girl wouldn't fart in front of you. Would you feel disrespected?
I would feel left out.
Yeah.
And this is why I started sniffing them.
What? Oh my God.
Okay, so maybe this is performance art. This guy's earnestness is hysterical to me. I would be honored to sniff your fart. I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I thought to myself that if I can't sniff your fart, then where's the art? There's no mirrors on the wall. I can't look at your hourglass figure. I don't even like the smell of your sweat. Maybe we're not meant to be.
Girls like, oh, we like a guy who cries.
And then I do it, and they bring it back up.
What a bitch.
That's what I'm saying.
Jesus.
I'm not saying every girl's like this. I think there are
some
great women out there.
There are some great women. But we're just talking about the majority of them they suck.
Be submissive in a moment and hold them and let them cry on your shoulder.
Let him cry on your shoulder. Let him sniff a fart, okay? Stop being a bee. It's like an extension of like toxic masculinity, right? Like it affects everyone, not just men. And so there are people who are not comfortable with men sharing their emotions, and that's like maybe growth that they need to have. I think that a lot of like dudes have taken the lesson that like you can't show your emotions around women, and not like that may just not be the right person, right? If you can't be your full self, if you can't cry because you haven't sniffed a fart in a long time, then like, is this the one? You know? Also, being submissive and being vulnerable are not synonyms, but go off, King. This is the full grift, right? Like, they probably know that women are not a monolith and that women are not objects. I hope. For the audience to rile people up, myself included, they take that archetype and run with it. But it doesn't mean that it's valid. Sometimes when people are like, it's troll, or it's like they're doing it on purpose, means that you should ignore it, or that it's okay, or if it's a joke, but it's harmful regardless. And that is like just true. And I don't think not talking about it fixes the problem, because they accumulate an audience that is confirming their beliefs by consuming this content. Okay, so I want to go to their full episodes because I'm so curious, how does a natural conversation occur between them? Wait, the title of this is Women Deserve More. This is the episode with the clips that we've seen this whole video.
Men can be assholes. You don't have to be those guys that are like, oh, all men are. But listen, a lot of us are. A lot of us have messed up. Even I've messed up. I'm sure you've messed up.
Even the Not So PG podcast boys have messed up. Bro, the chapter markers. Post-birth trauma? Why are these people discussing this? It can be beneficial for men to hear other men talking about their feelings, right? And that's like why I have my podcast. If they mean well, which I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt that they mean well, they're falling into a lot of like traps of like misogyny, right? Like, men are this monolith, women are this monolith, right? There's no space for the spectrum that, you know, gender falls on. There's no spectrum for just emotional range. It's like the thing, if a man is being emotional, then he's acting like a girl. Like that type of stuff, it feels like they're taking that as fact almost. Like, I'm just taking this from like Women Think Differently, which is literally the title of the chapter marker, which I think is problematic, right? It's maybe the first step towards empathy, but I do feel like if they're going to engage in these conversations, they should maybe have more men on that challenge some of these presuppositions, or talk to a woman, you know, or talk to someone who's non-binary. Challenge these truths that they seem to be like running with.
And then I had my own experience, mushrooms, to be blunt, and I just cried. Like, I remember crying about this situation. The next day, I woke up, I'm driving to the gym about like an hour later after waking up, and I'm like, oh, this is what normal people feel like. I was like, oh, this is what not having anxiety.
In this podcast, just watching the long form version of it, there's a lot of like almost realizations that come about.
Because I was so used to my whole life waking up feeling this instant depression, and thinking like I had to wake up and worry about something. But the fact that I woke up and I was just still, I thought there was something wrong with me. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, because I used to always downplay it, like, stop being a bitch. Like, as you'd say to yourself as a guy, like, why are you depressed? Like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
But when I finally felt just not having it, I was like, oh no, there was something wrong with me. I had a serious problem with my mental health.
Peter talks about being a bout of depression that he had, and then after the psychedelic experience, he felt like normal for the first time, and realized that something had been wrong for him before, and the internal language that he'd been telling himself was like, stop being a bitch, stop being a bitch, which I think that there are nuggets where it's like, okay, this is helpful, right? It acknowledges that mental health is real. It acknowledges that it impacts people in different invisible ways. Blanket advice like, you know, rise and grind type mindset doesn't apply to everyone. And that type of stuff, brought to like a very empathetic conclusion, I think can be helpful, especially for the type of people that are gonna consume this podcast. But so often it just like keeps parroting these very dangerous, toxic, masculine verbiage and ideas and concepts of man and woman that I'm like, oh, so close. So it seems like the possibility to have these like meaningful conversations is there. So I would really just encourage them to talk to more people that are like, have a different perspective, gender identity, and just a different background than they do, to challenge some of these like things that they're taking for granted. Because I feel, maybe I'm giving too much credit, but I feel like there's the possibility for like something there. Because a lot of times when I do these videos, it's like criticize the action, not the person. Try my best, you know, I'm fallible, but I guess I do just believe in the capacity for growth and change. So I think that is like what I would close on as it stands. Clips are bad, not very PG is what I'll say. And that's the verdict. And I hit the gavel. It was a judge show the whole time. Okay, that was fun, I think, maybe. Well, I hope you had fun. I certainly didn't. Bye.
This aviation disaster is really seismic, and for those who don't know, last night, the Reagan National Airport outside of Washington, D.C., there was an American Airlines flight coming from Wichita, Kansas, and it collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter over the Potomac River. The helicopter, it appears, was on a training flight. And as I said in the headlines, it's the deadliest aviation disaster in U.S. airspace since 9/11. In total, it's believed that there were 64 people on board the passenger jet and 3 on the Army helicopter. Some of the folks on this Kansas flight were figure skaters and their coaches and families returning from a training camp. Both U.S. citizens and also some Russian citizens as well. Now, we can't make a causal connection to any one factor at this moment. I want to be clear about that because the information is still coming out. But we do have 2 overarching themes about, at the very least, how the United States relates to aviation and transportation safety in this country. And one is a bit deeper. The first, that first reason really is that Reagan National Airport is overly congested. If we could pull up the Washington Post article here, they did a good job this morning of breaking some of this down. This congestion is a problem of really just slowly building up to putting more flights going through this airport. The Washington Post article explains here at the beginning. The airspace along the Potomac River where an Army helicopter and an airliner crashed Wednesday night poses some of the most complex challenges in the country for pilots, requiring them to rely on layers of procedures and electronic safeguards to avoid a catastrophe. If we could just scroll down to that first or second paragraph here. Military Coast Guard helicopters frequently fly low over the river, sharing the skies with planes on the heavily used takeoff and landing routes for Washington's Reagan National Airport. Congestion in the skies and on runways and taxiways around the airport has raised safety concerns for years. National was built to handle 15 million passengers annually. It now handles 25 million. And keep going because there's a little bit more I wanted to get to in terms of the context. Lawmakers proposed in 2023 to add more flights at National to serve new long-distance routes. Opponents of the idea raised questions about safety. Last year, as part of legislation to fund the FAA, Congress added 5 round-trip flights. The decision came over objections of members of the D.C. area congressional delegation who have long argued that the airport is at capacity. U.S. airlines have had a strong safety record in recent years, with the last mass casualty crash occurring in 2009. Federal aviation officials have scrambled to respond to a spate of near collisions at airports around the country that began in 2023. Industry leaders said they were a warning sign there was a risk of a crash as air traffic bounced back from pandemic-era lows. The FAA has investigated at least 3 close calls at National in recent years. 2 occurred in quick succession last year, heightening concerns. In one, air traffic controllers instructed a Southwest jet to cross a runway while a JetBlue plane was starting its takeoff roll down the same runway. In the second incident, an American Airlines jet preparing for takeoff nearly collided with a King Air plane that was landing on a shorter runway nearby. The FAA was investigating both incidents. Now, this fight goes back to also it's the gradual increase of flights at this particular airport. Again, this is the airport that like our lawmakers fly through. So their incentives are both personal and then also related to wanting more flights to the areas that they represent. This article from Maryland Matters about this was really interesting. This is the bottom section map. They go back to this FAA reauthorization fight in 2024 when these DC area lawmakers from Virginia and Maryland were fighting back. Opponents said Washington National, also called DCA, already strains to safely handle the current level of air traffic in and out of the airport. Adding flights will only worsen the safety environment, they said. But lawmakers from outside the DC area argued that additional flights would be a positive. Representative Hank Johnson, Democrat of Georgia, said they would add connectivity and economic expansion. It should be noted, by the way, that Georgia, Atlanta, huge aviation hub, one of the biggest airports in the country, so that's probably related here.
I mean, and that's the thing, is that connectivity and economic expansion. Yeah, we're a growing country, actually. There's a, I mean, I guess that's a Democrat saying that, so I can't even hit him on the small government thing. We need to be expanding the safety things of this first. It's not just expecting the benevolence of growth.
Yeah.
Cure all problems.
And like, you know, look, this is also, it's a Republican House at this time, so they lead the committees and they decide what's going to be added to the FAA authorization, so it's still tilted towards the Republicans, but yeah, that Democrat saying that is extremely depressing. Representative Burgess Owens, Republican of Utah, also applauded the extra flights. This legislation was designed not for one airport or one airline, but for all of us, he said. It gives more convenience, more opportunities to families traveling into Washington, D.C. The 5 new routes have not been selected, but some members, including Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, who is the ranking member on the Senate committee that oversees aviation. By the way, now that the Republicans took back the Senate, he is the leader. Have speculated that San Antonio could be one beneficiary. And by the way, that's what happened.
Gives opportunities to families? No, you guys want more flights into where you work.
Exactly. And, you know, they're responding to industry and they're hearing, I think, from these airlines, this is how the sausage gets made. There was and then this article cites this analysis from Temple University's Fox School of Business, where they found that transportation committee chairs saw flights to their districts increase by more than 5% on average from 1990 to 2019. The analysis, which was published last year in the academic journal Organization Science, also showed that airlines increased direct service to Washington, D.C. From a chair's district. The numbers generally reverted to normal after the chair's term. So this is how this works. And that's the overall, like, systemic, bipartisan, frankly, problem that we're seeing. But then we have the short-term story that's related directly to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Now, so this is an article from The Verge pointing this out from this morning, that Elon Musk pushed out the head of the FAA ahead of Donald Trump taking office. Musk has publicly clashed with the FAA and its former chief, Michael Whitaker. Now, Whitaker stepped down just before Trump's inauguration in anticipation of being fired, and now the FAA doesn't have a permanent leader at this current moment because Elon Musk had tweeted something about him. Just scroll down a little bit here, Matt. Michael Whitaker stepped down as FAA administrator on January 20th, the day of Donald Trump's inauguration, after clashing with Elon Musk, whose company SpaceX is regulated by the agency. Musk publicly called on Whitaker to resign after the FAA fined SpaceX for failing to get approval for launch changes. And now the power vacuum at the agency is coming into sharp focus after an Army helicopter collided with an American Airlines jet Wednesday evening in Washington, D.C., killing everyone on board. So we have that.
And we should also note that after the election, but also before it, and he just made less noise, planes had to be turned back because this guy was firing rockets off when they were re-entering the atmosphere. This guy is a threat to your safety in all of these places. And I mean, talked a lot about what he's doing in Texas, and sort of space. It's space pollution, literally. It's something that like Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about back in like 2008 of like, we're putting up so much stuff in the skies, and some of it just falls back down to Earth. This stuff is literally causing flights to turn around.
He wants to like have his like cosmic playhouse essentially, and not have a nagging bureaucracy that would say like maybe you shouldn't put this amount of junk into space because it could fall and kill people, or the bureaucracy that might say like, no, we shouldn't have this many flights going into this busy of an airport that initially was only supposed to have 15 million flights a year and now nearly doubled at 25 million. So that was on Inauguration Day. Same day, Trump announced hiring freezes, which, by the way, included I think air traffic controllers and airplane workers. So then January 22nd, Democrats, Representative Steve Cohen and Larson put out this statement. This is number 2, yeah. Ranking members Larson Cohen's statement on Trump's dangerous freeze of air traffic control hiring. That was 2 days later, January 22nd, 2025. And now, January 29th, the evening of, what do you know? What happened? There was an incredible disaster. We don't know for certain that that's exactly what happened, but we do have this from a reporter of Mother Jones, who said last night, was literally talking to the union representing federal air traffic controllers earlier today about how there's already a major shortage of air traffic controllers, and the resignation offers they just got from OPM could seriously endanger public safety. And last night we saw what happens when the government doesn't work. So again, it's too early to draw causal connections, I think. Although,
but the elements are pretty clear.
The elements are pretty clear, and the original part of what I'm saying about the increase in these flights to this airport clearly, I think, is a major issue that's independent of the second piece of the Trump administration's influence on this. But even if you can't draw a causal connection to these hiring freezes and to what that Mother Jones reporter was saying, and to the dysfunction that Donald Trump has created, know that this is what their vision is for the future. With Project 2025 and VOTE and the dismantling of the administrative state, the people that make our travel safe, the people that make our food safe, the people that inspect the drugs that we're ingesting into our bodies, they want those folks all gone so that the billionaires don't have to deal with the cumbersome burden of having to actually provide people products and services that don't kill us all. And that is the goal of the Trump administration, to loot the administrative state and give free rein to those very industries that they already serve. So, regardless of I also should say, the other theory is that it was DEI. Duh.
It turns out you need to have priorities, and we're not going to be able to have just infinite growth without attending to safety and infrastructure that's going to allow that, and like infinite military sort of maneuvers flying around because we're all of a sudden reopening Guantanamo to start concentration camps. It turns out we can't do all of the above, and we don't like Pete Buttigieg here politically.
No.
Big problem with him, but I'll just say, fixing bread prices for a consulting agency applies a little bit more than being an MTV Christian like Sean Duffy now, who is the transportation secretary. These guys are jokers, and to hear them come say we're looking into it, like I what a joke this entire, and Elon Musk firing these people, what a joke this administration is.
I mean, they're already going to blame DEI. It doesn't matter. It won't even matter if the identity
they're gonna make DEI popular.
They're repeating it over and over again, which the Democrats could learn from. I mean, God, with the level of repetition that the Republicans engage in terms of messaging, they say the same thing over and over again, and how stupid it is, but it's still able to get across. Can you imagine if we had that same kind of discipline with the Democratic Party? But it's all a coalition of never Trumpers all the way up to the squad, and there's no consistency on anything. And they're still just like struggling to respond and meet this moment. And I'm hoping that the reaction, like, I think Trump overreached with that. I'm gonna shut down the government that he did yesterday, and I'm not sure if you guys, I'm sure you talked about it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But the fact that there isn't a blitz of Democratic Party spokespeople saying the exact same thing right now about Donald Trump endangering Head Start and SNAP, necessary things that feed and educate people in our society, and the turbulence that cause, it's a failure. And like, for all of our sakes, they have to get it together and figure out a way to actually attack this administration.
And one final point before we get to our first guest in the ads, but the people are already there. The people, sense of urgency from the, and I'm just not just talking about like, you know, far left people that are always sort of keyed up on this stuff. I'm talking about normie people too. They are desperate for any sort of sign that there's urgency and not the complacency that has, you know, sentenced us to where we're at now.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Yesterday, RFK Jr.'s confirmation hearings happened, and they were, like, the Democrats actually, thankfully, were very aggressive with him, because it's extremely dangerous. I mean, this man is a lunatic, and Health and Human Services is no joke. So
he's an aristocrat that thinks America is too unhealthy to insure.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like you two are addicted to seed oils.
I know. I need my fix.
Shooting up sunflower seed oil, you know.
I mean, he's okay with maybe needles for some things, perhaps just to get his muscles to be like gargantuan and bloated, and that weird red thing that's always on in his undertone, the undertone of his skin. I mean, not to be too shallow here, but I know he doesn't believe in sunscreen. He really looks like a catcher's mitt. His face is just so leathery. It's like, dude, just at least wear a hat. At least wear a hat.
If there's any sign that Americans are unhealthy, it's that so many people idolize the way RFK Jr. looks.
Right.
Like, he's clearly pin and test. I personally think that and this is going to sound incredibly rude because it is, I think his skin reminds me of, remember when Lady Gaga wore that meat dress to the to that award show?
Of course I do.
That's his skin looks like what the meat dress looks like now, because they have it preserved out there, and like it's kind of jerkified, and that's what like he looks like. And people will like uncritically go, like, he looks great. He doesn't. No, he doesn't. He doesn't even look great for 72.
No, he does not look great. He looks like he's juiced up on something, and that's all I'll say. Anyway, let's maha all over the place here with Bernie Sanders asking him about the onesies that he sells on his website while claiming not to be anti-vax.
Well, you told the people of New Hampshire that it was their right. All right, let me do a last question because I'm running out of time. I think the gist of what you were trying to say today is you're really pro-vaccine, you want to ask questions. You have started a group called the Children's Health Defense. You're the originator. Right now, as I understand it, on their website, they are selling what's called onesies. These are little things clothing for babies. One of them is titled Unvaxxed, Unafraid. Next one is sold for $26 a piece, by the way. Next one is No Vax, No Problem. Now you're coming before this committee and you say you're pro-vaccine. Just want to ask some questions. And yet your organization is making money selling a child's product to parents for $26, which casts fundamental doubt on the usefulness of vaccines. Can you tell us now that you will, now that you are pro-vaccine, that you're going to have your organization take these products off the market?
Senator, I have no power over that organization. I'm not part of it. I resigned from the board.
That was just a few months ago. You founded that. You certainly have power. You can make that. Are you supportive of this?
I've had nothing to do with
Are you supportive of these onesies?
I'm supportive of vaccines.
Are you supportive of this clothing, which is militantly anti-vaccine?
I am supportive of vaccines. I want good science and protect.
But you will not tell the organization you founded not to continue selling that product. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Blackburn.
Whew. All right, Bernie, handing it to him. I mean,
it's not even an original onesie. It's not even an original onesie design. Like, you can get an unvaxxed, unafraid baby onesie, and you have been able to get those for like years from basically any conspiracy cranks website. So he's a plagiarist, and he is, well, I mean, he's unethical, but yeah, no.
I mean, he said on Lex Friedman in 2023, quote, "There is no vaccine that's safe and effective." And he has the gall to come out there. And in the same interview, he said the polio vaccine.
Lex didn't let me finish. I was actually going to say something very reasonable after that. He's a chicken shit.
He's lying.
Yes. This is the argumentative thing. This is a Mott and Bailey fallacy, which is like you take a position in the comfort of maybe a podcast, saying something like no vaccines are safe or women shouldn't be in combat roles. And then when you actually get called on that, you have to retreat to an actual secondary, more reasonable position, which is actually I like some vaccines, but I just gotta be clear about the science, or I think women should be in combat roles, but we have to have standards. It's chicken shit, and every anti-vaxxer does this. And we didn't even play this. Maybe I can try to find it. Maybe it's on the sound sheet. RFK's asked about his like whole bodily autonomy stance that all these anti-vaxxers like to pretend about. And then in the same sentence, he panders to the right on abortion.
And backtracked his own statements on that, which were pro-abortion in the past, back when he was a liberal.
And this is the truth of every anti-vax person. And I think we turn the sights on them now, is they're all chicken shits. They are adults that are afraid of needles, and they are being politically manipulated because of their fear. And it's time we stop fucking listening to them.
They are folks who are essentially libertarian hippies that have fallen into conspiracism and paranoia and have been manipulated by guys like RFK, who literally know better based on exactly what Matt is saying right there, because he knows he's lying, to feel like their healthcare is a personal consumptive choice based on what oils they ingest, what vaccines they take.
And do you want me to do something that's for the good of everybody?
No.
I'm about myself.
It's libertarianism. It is personalized healthcare, and a rich guy like RFK who can put, chicken feet into a blender and drink it, or, go falconing like he's some, it's literally like, he reminds me of that. I mean, I know he hasn't killed anybody, but like, what's that movie with the DuPont? I don't know that.
I don't know that.
Well, the Samoa thing, we could get to that maybe later, but.
Oh, I thought you meant like he hunts people for sport. I kind of assumed that's what you meant.
Well, I was thinking he's like that DuPont guy from the movie that Channing Tatum starred in, and Steve Carell played him. It was like an Oscar nominee back in the day.
The wrestling team, Foxhound or whatever it's called.
But he was a rich like DuPont heir that had all these like very specialized interests that only a very like wealthy, overeducated, but insulated person could have. And that's how I feel about RFK. But can we play that confrontation with him and Bernie? So I guess this happened off air. This was at one point a verbal spat between the two of them.
So it's John DuPont.
John DuPont, thank you. So this is today. This just happened. This is a part of this. He's 2 days of hearings. Okay. So that's him accusing Bernie Sanders of being in the pocket of the pharmaceutical lobby. I have got news for you. Besides the health insurance industry, the second industry that would probably be most oppositional to a Medicare for All system, with which Bernie Sanders ran on twice, would be the pharmaceutical industry.
And also alternative medicine.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. All the people selling you supplements and all this stuff that Maha, and I know whatever. I'm doing the Amanda Show thing. I don't care. It's funny to me. That they're appealing to is. Like, it's about just being hucksters and selling more products to people instead of what Bernie's vision of healthcare is.
Medicare for all.
Medicare for all, which is everybody having access to it and then being empowered over it, not in like what supplement you're going to purchase from some shady website, but the fact that you can go to the hospital and not worry about getting bankrupt, the fact that you can afford your insulin medication, that your child can go to the dentist for free. That's the vision.
Let's be very clear. This is exactly what I said before we went into the fun half, which is that this RFK shit is a psyop protecting the capitalists in the healthcare industry. Bernie's trying to say, hey, if you care about making America healthy, why don't we give Medicare for all? And RFK says, well, you got all these donations from pharma. Not even from the corporate headquarters, but the workers in pharma, which, by the way, I will say I think workers in all industries should be the ones trusted over the heads of those industries. Yes. And if they and I think that's I don't have a conspiratorial view of medicine in general, that every single person that goes into these fields wants to poison you fucking psychos. Yeah. And so why are we even pandering to this shit? It's because there's billions of dollars being put towards perverting this effort that we need to decommodify healthcare and trying to poison the well against it. And Bobby Kennedy and all of his fluffers in media like Jimmy Dore are party to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Brandon, sorry, you want to say something?
No, I was going to say he gives conspiracy theorists like me a bad name, because ultimately he's a perfect example of what, and this is what Matt was saying too, somebody who takes like what is easy to understand, structure that has incentives that will incentivize a certain way to behave. And I'm talking about the pharmaceutical companies, I'm talking about the large health systems and the health insurance conglomerates that work together to drive up, the cost of healthcare in America. And is trying to supplant that very simple narrative, that very simple thing that's occurring as a result of profit motives with some sort of like widespread conspiracy theory that posits that it's, Jewish people or, the deep state leftists or some, other thing besides capitalism and capitalists that is causing healthcare to go up. And, it's meant to distract people from like the true cause of it, whether knowingly or unknowingly. And it appeals to the vanity, people's vanity and ego, that they can, that they're better equipped to diagnose themselves than doctor, that they're better equipped to navigate their own health or the health of their children than medical professionals. And that's how you sucker people into believing something like that, because believing the, truth about the way capitalist incentives like have driven costs up in healthcare is difficult and it's big and it's upsetting and it makes you feel disempowered, especially if you understand all the barriers to getting that problem fixed. And if you just tell people they can take Brazil and Cambodia, that makes them feel better, and it also fits within the framework that people understand liberation in America, which is consumerism. So it's like empowerment through consumerism, and it also like strokes their ego, like about like, oh no. And it was funny with the Joe Rogan thing too, where like you don't like big pharma, but in reality you're just picking one big pharma product over another. So it's not about not liking big pharma. It's about thinking that you're more equipped with with your 1 year of science education in high school or whatever that you remember than like doctors, and that's just about like how.
And it was geology too.
These guys, I'm anti-pharma, but I do have monthly testosterone injections that if somehow that sort of lifeline to providing those goes away, I'm going to become a physical mess because I rely on those. And these are the people that are attacking trans healthcare. It's insane, man. It's really, we're through the fucking looking glass.
Foxcatcher was the name of the movie. Thank you very much. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the people who always warn about like poisoning your body with all these things, they're the ones who take more shit than anybody, honestly. They're the ones pumping themselves with who knows what and taking all sorts of pills and supplements. like the whole natural living thing. Let's see you actually commit to that then. But they don't do that.
Hey folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.
Lila is nothing but a low-down, dirty sperm stealer. That's right, a true semen demon.
I have never in my life heard anyone. You're a dirty semen demon. Dirty sperm stealing thought. How dare you?
She took advantage of me when I was asleep. I did not, I repeat, did not willingly sleep with her.
She got him while he's asleep?
Dang.
She's stealing it from him while he's sleeping? What a sound sleeper.
Really, that's...
Or maybe a little premature. Maybe... maybe she didn't have to work too hard to make that baby.
Only semen demons can do that. Kidding.
She's over there using her semen demon jitsu on her. So they look like Orochimaru with the tongue hanging out.
This chick keeps running around town stealing sperm so her and her lesbian girlfriend can have a baby. She is sick and...
She's running around town, Dane! Stealing everybody's. So her lesbian girlfriend, they're both getting pregnant. It's the semen demon cult. She does kind of look like a cult member. I don't know. Just looking at her here.
Listen up, you sperm stealing scam artist. You better think twice about stealing another man's sperm.
Woo! Don't you do that again. You better think twice.
Woo,
Next
man.
time. I like it cuts to all the women there. They're like, look at all these semen stealing ladies out here. Yeah.
It's the cult. The rest of the cult is here.
They all showed up to show support. We want to use that next time. Me and Mary have an argument. I'm just going to be like, you're... She probably hit me back. You gave it to me willingly. I'm like, God dang it.
Sperm stealer.
If I stole your sperm, why are you denying the baby?
Right.
Like, that doesn't make any sense.
True. That is true.
I mean, that's a fact, yeah.
Yeah, if she stole his and had a baby, but then the baby's not his.
Oh, well. That's kind of smart.
She's over there playing chess while he's playing checkers. Yeah. They're just going around like a jar, you know? Just stealing.
Add to it. Just add to it.
Get the turkey baster out and let's roll the dice, baby.
You're telling me that I raped you, but then how'd you get...
You ain't gotta work too hard. You know? Sometimes I just wake up.
Sometimes I'm just asleep. And then I wake up, I'm like,
There must be a semen demon around here.
Weak argument on her part. Weak.
Oh, it doesn't matter. You have to want it. You have to want it.
Not true. Like I said, you wake up with some morning wood. It's not like I just lay there sleeping all night going like, I want it. You know? Well, I think the science is like it just helps. It helps to keep you from peeing on yourself. You know. Is
that what
that's what I read one time? Yeah. It's like it's not even like anything like that. It's just helps you not to pee the bed. You know. Maybe that's not true. Let me know in the comments. I don't know.
11-month-old Lila. Drew, you are not.
Oh,
shit. You stole the wrong one.
First off, she's hitting that. Ooh. Yeah.
Watch out, the cult's out there.
He's gonna get back on the stage with less semen than he had to begin with.
You want to tell him anything?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, Drew.
January 6th participants who were pardoned by President Trump from getting state.
James.
And then just like that, they got back together. All is forgiven.
All of a sudden, he fathered the baby anyway.
You know what? I will take that baby.
Got married only 2 months after they first met.
Where is that baby?
And soon after that, Judy got pregnant with their daughter, Miracle. Judy took off with baby Miracle. And today, Judy is now in love with Scarlett.
How old is Scarlett?
What is going on here?
Scarlett looks like it could be her daughter.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like
they related?
Does she get cloned and stuff? And she's like, I don't want to be with me.
Like, I was gonna comment on the lady's face, and she's like,
like she's ready to come out and just throw down, hit him with like a steel chair and everything. And then it like zoomed out and showed her child, her other child that I guess she's in a relationship with, I guess.
I was there with her when she had the baby, when she had the C-section.
And you named her.
Day one, and I named her. And she has my last name.
Why are they so mad?
I don't understand.
They're just fuming back
they're
there.
like shaking.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the dude can hear them back there. He can hear them grinding their teeth right now. Whatever ears they're lacking, he's got.
Cry, 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 cry. You're not father material. You never were. You damn crybaby.
How dare that man show emotion?
Wow. And miss his kid.
Have you ever seen the Reddit pages where like people talk about like men talk about like opening up to their wives or their significant other or whatever, and then like what's the word, being emasculated, but like they just never see him the same, and eventually the relationship falls apart because he's not a man anymore. Wow. Because he cried about something. Or,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
I know.
nuts.
There's a whole Reddit page full of them. I don't know if they're made up or not, but it's
wow.
Everybody wonders why all these men just push everything down deep until they become psychopaths, you know? How dare you, big baby, cry because I broke your heart and took your child and started dating this high school student?
That's my kid. That's my kid. That's my kid. That's my kid. You're gonna sit there and say,
Boy, they got similar ears, Dave. He's got the hair sticking out, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
You think it's his? I hope it's not.
I'm kind of looking at. It doesn't really look like his.
I kind of, just for his sake, I kind of hope it's not.
Yeah, yeah, for real.
So he can escape the situation.
that's my kid.
In the case of 2-year-old Miracle James, you are not.
She's so happy. I told you I cheated. I told you I'm a scumbag.
Got another one.
Hey, what?
Part of the Semen Demon cult. It ain't yours. Poor guy.
Oh, thank you, God.
She's over. Wow. Thank you, Jesus. He was such a burden.
Yeah, ruined his life. Here we go.
Job of the Hut over here.
Wow.
Situation. Good for him.
Good for him.
She knows who the dad is. It ain't him. He's a baby. He's a big crybaby.
Kevin lied to me and my daughter. He got Michaela pregnant, and then he dumped her to go back to his trashy ex-girlfriend, Katana.
Katana? Katana.
I call Katana Cabbage Patch because she's short, fat, and ugly.
Fatality.
Cabbage Patch.
She's terrified that Trevin's gonna leave her for me. Once he knows, my baby is his.
You're furious. Why is everybody fighting over Trevor here?
Look at him, man. He's probably working on Wall Street. You know what I mean? Like, he's ready to go.
This dude's late for his raid right now. This is the first time he's ever put on a suit in his life. He's out in the trailer park just breaking hearts.
When you found out you were pregnant, you told Trevin. What was his reaction?
He came to my house and told me to my face, I love your daughter, I want to be with your daughter, and I'm going to take care of Andrew whether he's mine or not.
Classic red flag. Daughter's pregnant, still in high school. I'm going to be there for you every day, girl. I love you. This is forever. Next week, he's gone. Guaranteed.
He gone. He outie.
Every time.
So she said whether it's mine or not. There was doubts then.
Yeah.
He's now engaged to another woman.
When she's 4 months pregnant, he kicks her out of his house. Dates to me.
He's got a house? Maybe he is on Wall Street.
I told you, man. Look, you know what I'm saying? I can spot a trust fund when I see it.
No wonder she's fighting. She's got to prove that baby's his.
No question, that kid is yours.
She begged him to take off the condom. What are you talking about? You don't know the facts.
Oh, whatever. That's
She
a lie.
begged that man to take off the condom.
How does he know?
Was he there? He sounds like he was there.
What was he, like on the closet or something? One of those guys? You know, they got that one chair in the hotel room.
Oh, God.
Just randomly there looking at the bed. That's his chair.
Trevin, you are not.
I thought he fell down.
They just fake planted.
Down on the floor. She's leaving. Where's she going?
She's going to fight him. She's going to fight him and make him the baby daddy.
Yeah. Maybe it's a bit of toxic masculinity that I have here, but whenever it's like, he is the dad, and like, you know, they're like roasting him and cussing all the women, and they're like, yeah, that's right. You tell him. You get him. It's like, you're not the father. They're like, yeah. yeah, you know?
Right? We had to be sure, but now we know, okay?
I have no
clue. Now we know. Sorry.
I know. We'll be all right.
We were really awful people and we were treating you like that. If you were the father, you know.
Yeah.
But now that you're not, we can fix this relationship.
Yeah,
it's
now
okay.
it's okay.
Now it's okay.
Now you didn't get my daughter pregnant. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. We're sorry. Our bad, you know.
My bad.
But if you were the dad, we're gonna hate you for the rest of the baby daddy.
We made love non-stop like 40 times. One day I had to go to the hospital for dehydration. I found out that I was pregnant with our daughter Zeta.
She done got dehydrated, Dave.
Like 40 times. Aaron claims that we weren't together long enough for the baby to be his. But yes, we were. Aaron didn't even want a DNA test. I demanded that he take one.
She's gonna grow up. I don't know how old she is, but she's gonna grow up. She's gonna age poorly. I'll just say that. She's gonna be in the trailer park with a cigarette and be like, hey, you know. She's already got that look about her. I don't know what it is.
Is it the way she talks? I wanted to dehydrate this.
Yes, we were.
Just the look on her face right now is just like
she's dehydrated.
I need these DNA results because my marriage is falling apart.
They're married?
They're married, but they haven't been together long enough to. I don't, Dane, don't. Don't question
How
it.
long has she been dehydrated?
What are they booing him for? I bet this ain't his. I bet it's not his.
Look at this. Look at this hair. Look at this hair right here. What is it?
Comparing hair. Look at that. Mine just grows like this.
It only grows this long.
Well, she was with another guy, right? Before you got together?
Exactly. And guess what? He was Spanish.
Spanish. Spanish.
I don't know, Dane. I don't see it.
In the case of 17-month-old Zeta, Aaron, you are not.
Like everyone could just see that one coming.
Yeah.
We're making love so much I got dehydrated. You probably just told him that you were dehydrated. There's probably something else going on.
Right.
Narcotics and, you didn't have no money, so you had to trade something else. Anyway.
Haley made me believe I was the only possible father. But as soon as Jenna Lynn was born, I couldn't believe it. She looked exactly like Matt.
Don't put that on that baby.
Yeah.
Don't put that on that
That don't look
baby.
nothing like Matt, really.
I had this thought while we were watching this, and it's a little depressing. It's got to be for people that are watching this show because they're out there single. And they look at these people and they're like, "How are they like sleeping with multiple people to even be confused? How is this happening? How is Matt over here in like a love triangle?"
Yeah.
With his man bun.
Then, out of the blue, Haley admitted to everyone in the hospital that there were 4 potential fathers.
4 potential. The zoom in and just did that. I paused it.
But honestly, I don't even think either one of us is the father. I took Haley in when she had nowhere else to go. She used me and slept with every Tom, Dick, and Harry around.
I took her in when she didn't have nothing. Took advantage of the situation.
But she still got nothing.
Yeah, she's ungrateful. Seems like you got what you wanted, sir. I don't know.
Yeah.
They come out. Boo, Matt, he's 19 years old. 3 dudes wearing the green shirts here. Boo, 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 boo. Every father that comes out here. Boo, dads suck. Bunch of haters.
A bunch of haters.
You and Chase know each other, right?
Yeah.
No.
You're not friends?
Not no more.
Here's Chase. Chase, come on out.
Why did cheer for Chase?
No more.
Why does he get the
Why
applause?
does he? I don't get it.
Yeah, boo that dude with the ponytail. Chase, he's your ex. Yeah.
Maybe because he wanted to be the dad. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But it ain't him. That ain't neither one of them.
Ain't neither one.
I beat her
Bro, she called me. Everyone was right there.
You ain't begged me when I got out of the hospital.
Okay, Haley, I got it.
You ain't begged me when I got out of the hospital.
Okay, Haley.
I didn't understand a word.
Not one.
I love the way everyone sits here too. Like Marty's all like cross-legged and like, yes, and they're all like they're sitting on the front porch, like, yo, bro, I told you, dog.
You know I was a daddy, bruh.
Yeah, she's sitting just like us, dog. Look at her knees. They weren't out for a reason. They weren't worn out when I bought her them pants, all right?
Matt.
It ain't you, Matt.
You are not the father. Chase, you are not.
He's leaving. Don't hit that.
Oh, he just punched the brick wall.
He had to go find a brick wall to punch. Yeah.
That's the only thing that would withstand a punch from Chase.
Running out, he was looking for the Monster Energy drink and some drywall to punch, but he found a brick wall instead.
When I was 17 years old, I caught my ex-girlfriend cheating on me. You know what she did? She put a brick in her bag and she hit me in the balls with it.
What an origin story.
Wow.
Testicle split open and my right one fell onto the ground. I scooped it up and I walked a half a block to the hospital. My bowl was in my hand. Now
She said, now the ball's in your court. Dang.
What kind of relationship do these people having at 17 years old? Walk to the hospital. Did they put it back on? Is he the dad? How's he the dad?
There's so much blood that the nurses passed out. They couldn't believe that I survived. And the doctor said I could never have kids.
They couldn't believe that he survived.
Yeah.
How'd you not die?
How did he walk anywhere after getting hit that hard in the nuts?
Cut him open. He's bleeding everywhere. The way he worded it is like he showed he's like, look at my ball. The nurse is like, ooh. There's probably like,
how are you alive?
He's like bleeding everywhere. Dude, how are you? So he's going to be the dad.
Oh, you know he is.
He's the dad.
He's got to
He's still got one working testicle, you know?
But then my girlfriend Michelle had our son Casey. He's my miracle baby. But my stupid cousin Robbie and his girlfriend Emma, they don't think I'm the dad.
Why don't Robbie think he's the dad?
Because Robbie was banging.
Oh, wait.
What's Robbie hiding?
Either they snuck in, he knows something that not everybody else knows, or they're just looking out for their family.
Oh, that's what it is. That's got to be it. Yeah, absolutely.
Cheating. You only got one ball. I didn't. Nah. How many sperm are inside a guy? There's so many. You don't need. I guess that's why you have two, right?
I mean, that's true.
That's why you have two in case you lose one.
That's right. Yeah.
My right testicle may not work, but my left one made my son Casey. I am the father.
Oh no.
He ain't the dad. He ain't the dad. No way.
Oh man.
Too many flags.
He's too happy.
He's raised too many flags.
Robbie and Emma, come on out.
Booing them. What'd they do? They're just haters. Boo them.
You know he's my boy. You know that. Are you positive about that? I am.
Why are you so...
I actually better watch out stepping up your cousin like that.
Yeah,
he's like, you better watch out, little cuz.
He doesn't have no features.
Look at
Anything
it.
that looks like you is his eye.
Do you think that
it's a little.
Do you think that Maury Povich actually had plans to be a legitimate person?
Baby, I mean, it's sometimes, I don't know, but babies.
Maybe his eyebrows.
I was gonna say they kind of look. A lot of babies just kind of look the same, you know. Let them grow just a little bit.
Dustin, you are the father.
Oh! He did it!
How about that, cuzzo?
He did it!
Yeah!
I thought there was no way. He's looking over there like right now, like, huh?
Maury. Stop!
I told you. It's a miracle. They did it.
Yeah!
I told you.
The left one's good. I told you.
Obviously, you scored the winning touchdown.
They're chanting, mind your business.
I still want to know who else is playing the game, though. You know? He's scoring the touchdown. Who they know who's cheating?
Right. They still didn't address that.
Well, that's that. That's the end of it. That is You Are Not the Father, White People Edition, Part 2. And there's a third one.
Oh, really?
Oh, there's a bunch of these. There's we talked about there's a white people version, there's a black people version, there's a Latina version.
Oh.
Got it all. And the last one didn't get claimed. So,
all right. Let's go.
All right, well, leave a like, leave a comment, do all that cool stuff. Today's your birthday. Happy birthday. Stay in touch with our friends. I love you. See you next time. Bye-bye.
My heart goes out to you.
And my heart goes out to you. God bless.
2 out of 3 of those Nazis who gave Hitler salutes actually faced repercussions for it. Care to guess which 2? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't the one with all the money and all the power in the world. The woman, Laura Smith, was a Republican politician who was a town supervisor in Pennsylvania, and she was forced to resign after doing that because it sparked outrage and condemnation from her own colleagues. The priest, Calvin Robinson, was fired from his position at the Anglican Catholic Church and condemned by them in a public statement. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has faced no accountability whatsoever for his hate speech. In fact, he's being vociferously defended by conservatives, and media outlets are reporting on it as if it's some ambiguous thing, calling it a straight arm gesture as opposed to just calling it the Hitler salute that it was. Now, part of the reason why I suspect media is treading carefully here is because Elon Musk has a history of being very litigious, and he's hinted that he might sue Tim Walz for accurately describing it as a Nazi salute, and his mother has encouraged him to sue CNN for the same reason as well. Now, I, for one, refuse to engage in the pro-Nazi gaslighting that we're seeing. It was a Hitler salute, period. And after Elon Musk...
It's funny to me that Elon's grandparents on his mother's side were Nazis. Just FYI.
Gave that Hitler salute, he spoke at a rally for Germany's AfD party, which is a neo-Nazi party, by the way, and he told the Nazis there that he was speaking to that they should move on from their past guilt. Yeah, but I just can't tell what he meant when he gave that straight arm gesture. And I love how even the people defending him are unwittingly proving that it was indeed a Hitler salute by refusing to do it themselves. Case in point.
Anybody who is asserting this thing he did on the stage the other day was a Sig Heil, which I just heard you say, lawyer up maybe, because absolute ridiculous thing to say. Under no circumstances.
The Nazis in Germany thought it was a Sig Heil.
Under no
circumstances
was he doing anything other than expressing enthusiastically.
Why don't you do it on TV right now?
His appreciation.
Why don't you do it on TV right now if you think it's so?
Number 3. Number 3.
Right, very convincing. But don't interrupt him. Let him finish his defense of the Nazi. Great job, CNN. Love the work that you're doing. But, not to belabor this point any further, we're not stupid. We know what Elon Musk meant when he Sig Heiled. But he faced zero accountability, unlike the 2 other Nazis who gave the same salute. Why? Because he's rich and powerful, and they are not. Now, to be clear, I have no sympathy for the 2 non-powerful Nazis or any other Nazi who felt the courage to Sig Heil on social media after they saw Elon Musk do the same thing. Fuck around, find out. In this country, we treat Nazis the way that Indiana Jones treated them. And I hope that they all do to themselves what their leader did to himself. Not in Minecraft, by the way. And as this TikToker put it,
I'm seeing a ton of videos of people who are going through some major hardships right now, because they tried to defend Elon Musk's weird little gesture on stage the other day, and so they repeated it on social media, and now they're losing their jobs, they're losing their livelihoods, they're getting tons of hate online, they're really going through a hard time. So to all those people out there, my heart goes out to you.
My thoughts exactly. Fuck Nazis. But the reason why we're talking about this double standard is because it is indicative of everything that's currently happening in this country right now. We're seeing the rise of fascism, as well as the rise of untouchable oligarchs like Elon Musk, who have become more powerful than actual governments. And their wealth and power is only increasing. We're going to see the next trillionaire probably within the next decade. These things are not happening in a vacuum. It is all interconnected. It's related, right? The rise of fascism around the globe is the direct result of the collapse of capitalism that is now being accelerated by the class war oligarchs have been waging on the working class for decades. And the reason why capitalism always inevitably collapses into fascism is because when you reach late-stage capitalism, the conditions for ordinary people become so bad that they become susceptible to radicalization because of how desperate they are. And rather than improving material conditions for working people and throwing them a few crumbs, oligarchs instead choose to just double down on their wealth maxing and convince working people that marginalized groups are the ones to blame for everything that's wrong and not them. I mean, in the 1930s in Germany, Nazis blamed Jewish people, as well as queers and communists, for all of their economic woes. And Germany's AfD and France's National Front and America's Republicans are also blaming marginalized people. This time it's immigrants. It's also trans people. And their scapegoating of marginalized people is reinforced through an endless stream of propaganda where an anecdote of a crime committed by an immigrant, for example, is sensationalized and made out to be representative of that entire group. And We're also seeing the same thing happen with trans people, where we're being told that they are a threat to women or they're destroying sports and undermining our very way of life. And eventually Americans grow tired of picking on one particular group. For example, with gay people, they were told that, oh, they're going to destroy Western society and marriage for straight people, but none of those things actually came to fruition. So eventually they had to move on, and they always move on. They pick a new target and they do the same exact thing that they've always done. It's the same playbook. And when times are tough, people are especially inclined to believe these lies about marginalized people since it's an explanation. Now, it may be the incorrect explanation, but it's an explanation nonetheless. But what I'm describing is the deliberate cultivation of fascism by the ruling class in order to wage class war in service of late-stage capitalism to their benefit. But the question is, why? Why does capitalism always inevitably collapse into fascism? And Professor Richard Wolff is going to give us an answer.
The capitalism that was normally perfectly happy with conventional representative electoral democracy was falling apart. The capitalism was producing such suffering, such anger, such bitterness among the mass of people that there was a developing anti-capitalist movement. And this scared the capitalist class, the owners of the enterprises, the big CEOs. They could see the handwriting on the wall. In Italy, just before fascism, you had the greatest general strike in the history of the country in Torino, led by a then obscure communist named Antonio Gramsci, who becomes one of the great communist theoreticians of the 20th century. Terrified people. In 1917, a few years before, an anti-capitalist revolution in Russia succeeded, terrified capitalists everywhere in the world, here in the US too. So there was this sense it's falling apart, our system. And when that happens, there's a strong push, doesn't always succeed, but a strong push to push aside representative democracy, all of that, and have the iron heel, the iron fist. Change the government from that game to one where its job is to control a society, repress every critic of capitalism you can find, do it all in the name of the race or the nation or patriotism, to give it all a better sounding name than saying we're going to save capitalism by crushing everybody who disagrees with it, everybody who has turned against it. So it is done in the name of, well, the nation, nationalism. It's a good way of covering it over. Everything we're doing is not about preserving capitalism. That's the real agenda. It's about preserving the nature, or preserving white America, if you bring it over into us, or preserving the Italian soul, or preserving genuine Spain, whatever it was always the same.
And that is what we're seeing again. He goes on to explain how fascists went after labor unions and socialists and communists and crushed every opponent to capitalism, who would basically sound the alarm about the game that was being played. And we're also seeing that same thing again as well, right? Restrictions are also being imposed on freedom of speech, not just when it comes to the government censoring people, but also in the form of oligarchs scaring opponents into silence with defamation lawsuits like this guy does. Fascism is essential to maintaining capitalism in its most brutal and latest stage because it is necessary to limit the type of politics that's acceptable, right? Questioning the ruling class, as Bernie Sanders did, that's not acceptable. So the ruling class spent heavily to destroy him. Attacking innocent immigrants, that is okay. Because if you're not looking at them, then it's cool if you look at somebody else. They don't care who, just pick a target and focus on them. That's what's happening. Fascism elevates a divisive form of politics and pits working class people against each other, so that way they never ever team up to take on the working class, which is why we see perpetual class warfare being waged. And this TikToker that we're going to watch is going to explain how American oligarchs have masterfully kept working people divided in perpetuity.
Could somebody help me understand what is this obsession with trans people, the right?
Conservative politicians are capitalist, and under capitalism, you need to make more money so you can keep growing. And oftentimes this happens at the expense of quality of product or service, such as when a product becomes designed to break so people have to keep buying it over and over again, or when a service starts to offer fewer and fewer features, but it costs more every single year. This can happen at the expense of morality, such as companies like Enron starting rolling blackouts in California so that they could generate more demand for electricity and therefore make more money for themselves, or the United Fruit Company disrupting elections in Latin America. However, it can also happen, especially when it comes to maintaining community, because the reality is that communities share resources with each other. And because people share resources with each other, they spend less money. Under capitalism, you benefit from separating people because people, when they are separated, they need to spend more to provide for themselves, which makes them more profitable. This is known as market segmentation, and you can see it everywhere. For instance, there's products that are made for men and products that are made for women, even if they're the same overall, like shampoo. By selling two versions of products, you almost guarantee that every household will buy twice as many as they normally would if they were just one type. And the thing about conservative politicians is that they are primarily incentivized to do two things, which is lower taxes for the wealthy and deregulate markets so that companies can make more money with fewer checks and balances. And these are not very popular with the average American voter. People want to live in safe environments and they don't want to lower taxes and give money to the wealthy. So, in order for conservative politicians to find ways to make this more palatable, they essentially need someone to blame. For instance, say that I was a congressman in like rural Pennsylvania, and my constituency is largely lower and middle class voters, and there's a bill put in Congress that would benefit these voters, but it would come at the expense of corporations that fund my campaign, so like a higher corporate tax rate or something. And I need these corporate donors because otherwise I won't get reelected. So I need to justify voting against this bill, and that would come at the expense of potentially antagonizing my voters, unless I can find a way to spin it. And I look at this and I realize, okay, this bill benefits everybody. So I can simply state, well, this bill would benefit trans people too, so therefore I shouldn't vote for this bill because it would be immoral. And that has worked in the past. That is what conservative politicians have done in order to justify voting against something that would benefit everyone. They highlight the fact that it would also benefit people that they personally dislike. Even further, say I'm that same congressman and my district has been consistently doing worse every single year that I've been in office, but my corporate donors are happy because they're doing very well for themselves and they want me to maintain the status quo. If I attempt to help my district out with some sort of bill, they will fund my opponent in a primary election and I will lose and I won't be back in Congress next term. For that reason, I fundamentally cannot help my voter base because if I do, I will lose re-election. So, essentially, I need to find ways to make it look like I'm being productive.
And that right there is where you really start to see what divide and conquer looks like in practice. Politicians like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Nancy Mace will performatively scapegoat some marginalized group in order to make it seem as though they're fighting for their constituents, but they're doing that to obscure the real work that they're actually doing for their donors. And that TikToker gives multiple examples. One of them was Montana passed a border security bill that is completely irrelevant for obvious reasons since they are nowhere near the border. And with regard to trans rights, states codify trans sports bans to make it look like they're defending girls' sports often when there's no known trans athletes in the entire state. Like they're proposing solutions to problems that literally do not exist. For example, during the height of hysteria over trans people in sports in 2021, the AP actually spoke to lawmakers in 20 states that were proposing these bans, and almost all of the policymakers that were proposing these laws couldn't cite a single example of one trans athlete disrupting their school sports. The following year, Kentucky banned the only trans athlete in the entire state from her middle school hockey team, even though the school didn't even offer hockey until she recruited enough girls to create a team. Great job, Kentucky Republicans. You've successfully saved girls' sports by banning the person who made the team from the team. Excellent work. But the goal is to distract you by throwing a vulnerable group under the bus. It gets working people to think that everything would be better without that one group. And it forces the rest of us to defend that group because culture wars are not victimless wars. They may be distractions, purposefully so, but they still have victims. There are serious consequences to the culture war. But understand that politicians have to play this game because it's the only thing that they can do to make it seem like they're representing us at all. You know, since they are terrified of what would happen if they actually did try to do something good for us and subvert the status quo. And, you know, they can't just say, fuck you, I'm going to do what my donors want cope and seethe. So they have to put on some type of political theater to at least try to placate us, right? To keep the masses from picking up the pitchforks. And to be clear, the oligarchic nature of our government, it's not necessarily new, but it did used to be more subtle. But billionaires have become so brazen that they're publicly threatening politicians to do what they want or they're going to face consequences. For example, billionaire Nicole Shanahan had a warning to senators who dared to vote against her anti-vax bestie RFK Jr.
This hasn't been widely reported, but in 2020, I cut large checks to Chuck Schumer to help Democrats flip 2 Senate seats in Georgia from red to blue. The 2 candidates I helped elect, Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator Jon Ossoff, please know I will be watching your votes very closely. I will make it my personal mission that you lose your seats in the Senate if you vote against the future health of America's children. And more than that, I also want to say to Senators Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, James Lankford, Cory Booker, John Fetterman, Bernie Sanders, and Catherine Cortez Masto, this is a bipartisan message, and it comes directly from me. While Bobby may be willing to play nice, I won't. If you vote against him, I will personally fund challengers to primary you in your next election, and I will enlist hundreds of thousands to join me.
And to be clear, when she says that she'll enlist hundreds of thousands to join her, she means she's going to bankroll a massive propaganda campaign and fund AstroTurf if need be. Because normal people don't agree with a lot of the things that billionaires push. They are deeply unpopular, but since they have money, well, they can get their agendas actualized because money moves mountains, especially in late-stage capitalist systems. But just think about how unfair that is. If you support Medicare for all, or you want your senator to stop supporting a genocide, you have no leverage. You can vote or threaten to not vote, but they don't really give a shit, as we've seen. I mean, you can try to threaten them with a primary opponent yourself, but they know that you're not serious because you're broke as shit. And they know that you're broke as shit because they're the ones keeping you that way. So at the aggregate level, when you see all politicians respond this way to these threats, or react to these threats, I should say, what happens is we get a system where politicians listen exclusively to the ruling class, and they end up ignoring everything that the rest of us have to say. And that's not hyperbole, right? I'm not just using an anecdote and sensationalizing it like they do. This is actually political science data. In 2014, 2 Princeton professors found that regular citizens had a statistically insignificant impact on policy outcomes, but alternatively, policies supported by economic elites and interest groups did predominantly become law, because we effectively live in an oligarchy and the ruling class isn't even trying to hide it anymore. And to bring it back to Elon Musk, Bernie Sanders explained how directly involved he was in the legislative process, even though he wasn't elected by a single American.
Within the House of Representatives, the Republican House, and the Democratic Senate, there was widespread agreement on this resolution. And it was just about ready to be passed. In fact, the Republicans posted it on their website. We were ready to go. But then, out of nowhere, the wealthiest man in the world, Elon Musk, began tweeting his opposition to this legislation. In fact, he was very blunt about it. He told Republicans that if they voted for this proposal, which they had already agreed to do, he would take out his wallet and spend as much money as it took to defeat them in primaries and drive them out of office. You got that? Take a deep breath and appreciate what's going on here. The wealthiest person in the world, who spent at least $277 million to elect Donald Trump in a Republican Congress, has now claimed complete ownership of that party.
In other words, we are in the final stage of capitalism, and our government is no longer capable of serving anyone but the ruling class, and they could barely maintain the facade that they give a shit about what we want. And since so many crises have gone unaddressed for so long, Americans have grown increasingly desperate year after year after year, and their material conditions get worse and worse and worse. They're working longer hours for lower wages. Their quality of life has gone down. It's just that, and it's getting worse. And this situation has led to the deliberate cultivation of fascism by oligarchs to distract and make sure that the anger that they're feeling is never directed onto elites like Elon Musk, but instead is directed onto their neighbors who happen to be immigrants or people of color. And while they got us all fighting each other, they're robbing us fucking blind. And you just have to look a little bit closer to see it. As Common Dreams reports, Kevin Hern, the chair of the Republican Party's Policy Committee, confirmed Wednesday that President Donald Trump's chaotic and destructive effort to slash federal funding, including key anti-poverty programs, is tied to the new administration's attempt to enact another round of tax cuts that would disproportionately benefit the rich and large corporations. Quote, if you're going to cut taxes and send money back home, then you also need to stop the spigot in Washington, D.C., Representative Kevin Hern told Politico. You can't do both. So he's basically giving away the game here. If you get rid of, say, the estate tax, for example, and you let rich people pocket around $370 billion more throughout the next decade, just by doing that, that's one of many things they will do to cut taxes for the rich. But if you just do that, that is $370 billion less dollars in revenue that the federal government is going to have. So how do you pay for that? You've got to make up that money from somewhere. Right? So where do you cut? Do you take it from our defense budget? Of course not. Because, these politicians are bankrolled by defense contractors. Some of them don't just take money from them in terms of campaign contributions. They have stake in them. They have investments in them. So what's on the chopping block? Well, Social Security. Up to $2 trillion in cuts to Medicaid. They're making you poorer so the rich can get richer. It is a straight up robbery. And before you can get too mad about it, they're going to try to convince you that trans people or immigrants are your real enemy. So, if you look at them, you're not going to point the finger at those at the top like Elon Musk who are just straight up robbing you blind and laughing all the way to the bank. This is a class war, and your enemy is not immigrants or trans people or black people. It is the billionaire class. It's the oligarchs who are paying politicians to pickpocket you for them. They have it all, but it's not enough. They want more. They want to buy their 10th mansion, an 8th yacht. And the fascist politics that so many Americans have fallen for is nothing more than a ruse to get working class people to wage a war against themselves. So in conclusion, I don't want you to think that the return of Nazism and societal fascism is just a coincidence. The conditions that preceded the rise of Nazis in Germany in the 1930s are present once again, not just in America, but around the globe. And on the micro level, we can address this by defending marginalized groups and fighting for social justice. And while we do that, we simultaneously have to try to foster class solidarity among our peers. And on the macro level, politicians, I'm looking at you, Democrats, must address the underlying material conditions that made so many people susceptible to radicalization in the first place. You are not going to change people's material conditions by just making tweaks on the edges and incremental changes. You have to implement systemic change. Otherwise, things are only going to continue to deteriorate. It's why Bernie Sanders was so popular, because he wasn't just talking about small changes. He was talking about systemic reforms that would radically transform life for working Americans. That is where the Democratic Party needs to be if they actually want to thwart this threat of fascism.
Might be a good idea.
Woke mob. Woke mob.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke ideology.
Woke test.
Woke ideology.
Woke Olympics.
Woke ideology.
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 Weaponized wokery.
Woke ideology.
It's just the way that they tried to diversify the profession was an issue. It actually led to a class action lawsuit, and it's titled Brigida versus Department of Transportation. And through the discovery process of that lawsuit, we've learned a lot about the FAA's hiring practices.
Dude, this is crazy that they are now devoting a news program defending Trump's anti-DEI stance. That's really alarming. That's how we know, dude. This is like Tenet Media. This is Dave Rubin and Benny Johnson shit.
What led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. I changed the Obama standards from very mediocre.
Dude, you notice how he starts with the Obama.
Best to extraordinary. You remember that. Only the highest aptitude, they have to be the highest intellect and psychologically superior people were allowed to qualify for air traffic controllers. When I arrived in 2016, I made that change very early on because I always felt this was a job that had to be superior intelligence.
President Donald Trump is catching a lot of heat for his opinions regarding what caused or what led to the mid-air collision between.
Can we just talk about the way she started that? Did you notice the way, just the way she introduced that? Dude, who's paying them? I mean, we know the right-wing slide, but who's paying them? Can you imagine if Karen Bass had said what he just said, or Gavin Newsom? Like, holy shit. Dude, she is sniffing it, bro. She's like sniffing the Trump taint.
Obviously a tragedy, so immediately pivoting to politics is definitely in bad taste, especially since in that statement, you hear Donald Trump say, we don't know what the cause of this was. So why immediately jump into DEI hiring practices? But there is some truth to what he's saying about what was happening with hiring practices in regard to air traffic control prior to 2016, which I'm going to get into details.
She did not. No. She like briefly calls him out for an opinion and then comes right in and just cups his balls. No. Oh. What are we watching? This is the same woman that like was so anti-Trump, taking away women's rights. Like, what are we doing?
And I also want to note that Donald Trump's press conference was riddled with all sorts of contradictions.
The president was asked specifically, should Americans now feel safe to fly? And he specifically said yes, even though he had criticized the institution, the Federal Aviation Administration, for its diversity policies. Those policies are still in place. That personnel is still in place.
I like this guy's tie, dude. He's got a good tie, dude.
It's okay.
Bold.
It's okay. We are safe. Do you see a contradiction in that?
I mean, I definitely see a contradiction. That doesn't mean everything that Trump said during the press conference was false. And I want to get into what he said that was accurate in just a minute. But I think.
Oh, that's interesting. Our left-wing progressive news network wants to focus on what Trump said that was accurate. That's a new twist. Okay. All right, Anna. You go, girl.
I think that Stuart Varney makes a good point here, and I'm curious what you think, Cenk.
Yeah, I mean, look, things are breaking down in such an interesting way where Fox News is admitting that Trump is wrong. We're about to show you something where Trump is right. So that's good. That means actual news is breaking out.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, when we agree with Fox News or whatever, that means it's good. Yeah.
Put in one comment from a member. Cenk's left tricep Fury on TYT.com said, when we need caring and reassuring voice, our president is as deplorable as possible. He is disgusting. And look, guys, even with the thing that we're
he
about
is
to tell
disgusting.
You, is this the time to divide the country? Is this the time to try to make...
Oh, look at Janky. Wow. Is this the time to divide the country? Cenk, see, this is what pisses me off more than anything, guys. Okay, is this. Right here, dude, because the person dividing the country is not your fucking channel member who said Trump is disgusting. The person dividing the country is the motherfucker who just stood at a podium doing a news conference where even though everyone involved was a straight white man, he attacked Obama, he said it was diversity, and he said the transportation guy was at fault, presumably because he's gay. Like, Cenk, come on, bro. But you're like telling your channel member that he was the one dividing the country. Like, homie, Cenk, dude, what are you doing, bro? Like, and goddamn, whoever that channel member is, like, please cancel your shit, bro. You got to get out of the loop. All right, you're getting harmed.
Nevertheless, there was a program at the FAA that was deeply troubling about 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, and this is the thing about Trump, right? This collision happened under his watch. So he's worried about the political consequences or ramifications of it.
Yeah, he blamed it on Obama.
Before anyone knows.
He's like you guys. Everything's the black guy's fault, right? right? It was all Mondale Robinson's fault. It's all Pastor Ben's fault, right? It's not Anna, the Armenian woman who's getting whiter every fucking day we turn on the show. She's like 2 shades whiter, right? It's not her fault. It's not Jenky Uger, like the Charlie Kirk prostate massager's fault. It's got to be Obama.
So what he was referring to were the DEI hiring practices over at the FAA as it pertains to air traffic controllers. And about 2 years ago or a year ago, I came across a really interesting report about what was going on and how these practices ended in 2016 when Trump got elected for his first term. So the questionable hiring practices for air traffic controllers were part of an effort to diversify the profession. It's just the way that they tried to diversify the profession was an issue. It actually led to a class action lawsuit, and it's titled Brigida versus Department of Transportation. And through the discovery process of that lawsuit, we've learned a lot about the FAA's hiring practices. So let's get to those details. So previously, each candidate for air traffic control was required to pass this 8-hour cognitive test known as ATE-SAT, ATE-SAT.
This is crazy that they are now devoting a news program defending Trump's anti-DEI stance. Now, again, it's hard with the cognitive testing because cognitive testing doesn't in and of itself really quantify ability. It usually quantifies privilege. It really does. You know, you look at something like the SAT, you don't have to be smart to get a good grade. You can be a very mid student, but if you train and you take those classes and when you get prepared, you can go in there and get a score that makes you look smart as hell. Wealthy people do this with their kids all the fucking time. Okay, testing favors people who can afford to be trained how to take the test. There's other shit of just food security, housing security, having, a stay-at-home mom, right? I mean, access to healthcare, there's a whole bunch of shit. But I think it's really interesting, though, that what they're doing is the program is not centering around Trump or even Trump's response or even Trump's ineffectual nature and how this is going to affect us. Their program is centering around the thing that Donald Trump was railing against that had nothing to do with this fucking incident. And that's really alarming. That's how we know, dude, this is like Tenet Media. This is Dave Rubin and Benny Johnson shit. Somebody is pumping them with money that is causing them to espouse sideline Trump support. Somebody is pulling the strings because this shouldn't be the story. This is not normal.
A very effective way of hiring people for the job in 2013, but that actually soon changed because of the pressure to diversify the air traffic control workforce. At that point, the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees lobbied the Department of Transportation, the FAA, and the Congressional Black Caucus hard on this issue. Soon the FAA commissioned a barrier analysis that argued that the 8-hour cognitive test air traffic controller applicants took posed a barrier for Black candidates.
I find that totally fucking believable. And you ready? You ready to one up, guys? Follow my reasoning here, guys, because I'm going to blow your fucking mind. I will posit that if we go back and look at the development of this test, if we go back to when this 8-hour cognitive test was designed, the people who designed it so it could only be passed by white men. And boom. And probably, right, white men of a certain class level in society. I bet they designed this fucking test to be a barrier. If we look at the testing they do for policing or for management jobs, even the whole you got to have a 4-year degree to apply, those qualifications are created as a fucking barrier. They're designed to prevent Black people from being able to pass them. They're designed to prevent women from being able to pass them. They are specifically put together to cater to the way the male brains operate. Dude, they've been doing this like all over the place. Crash testing was designed for the male body, so women get hurt worse in cars. Medicines designed for men. Everything is like that. It's like the poll test that's designed to keep black people from voting. You know, it is. It is definitely systemic. Everybody who is privileged enough to be able to go to those specialized schools, get trained to take that test and take that test, boom, they automatically get in, whether they're qualified or not. If they can afford to get into that environment, to be able to train to pass that shit, and that test was catered for them to be able to do it, boom, you're in. This is weird. I'm sorry, guys. Watching a progressive channel do this is fucking strange, guys. This is some weird shit. They're on it. Look at the title on this thing. The title on this is Trump's unbelievable comments about midair crash in Washington, D.C. So the title of this video is like anti-Trump. And then the video is like Trump really has a point. There's like a significant amount of deception going on with these guys right now.
So the majority of people would fail, but in the background of all of this happening, the very organization, the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees, were advising black applicants on how to answer the questions in a way that would ensure that they would get hired.
You see that though? The coverage, she's saying the Black Coalition was helping the black people cheat and be able to pass this test. That's what she's saying. They designed a test that everyone was going to fail, but then the black guys were helping the black people pass. Like, dude, they're so fucking racist. They are literally waxing Trump's ass right here.
In the old days, you know, before this program was put into place, they would take the competency test and that would settle. And it was an 8-hour test, grueling, but we got you good qualified candidates.
Again, no, it was grueling and it was designed to be a barrier to keep certain types of candidates out. Make no mistake about it, that grueling 8-hour test was designed to make it so white men who went to the fancy school and got the fancy training could easily pass that test. And nobody who didn't go through that rigmarole could pass it, okay? Regardless of whether they were qualified or not. That test was created as a barrier.
They're like, oh, black people are probably going to be bad at this job. So let's design a questionnaire to find the crappiest candidates so we can find more. No,
Dude, what is he doing? Like, see, dude, this is where I just can't.
Oh no, who are these monsters who got paid $1.5 million?
Because what he's not taking into account is the fact that the original 8-hour test was designed to be a barrier. Everything about our systems, the tests, the hoops that are put before people are designed to be barriers. Voter ID, okay? Classic. Voter ID is a barrier that is designed to prevent black and brown people and poor people from voting. That's what voter ID is. It is presented as something to protect the safety and the legitimacy of the election, but voter ID is actually a barrier to prevent people. Requiring a college degree. Plenty of idiots get college degrees. Plenty of dumb motherfuckers get college degrees. Requiring a degree is a barrier that keeps certain people, mostly minorities and poor people, out of contention. Always, every standardized test is some type of a barrier. That's really the point of them. You can't measure aptitude with a test. Tests are designed to be barriers. It's like that's the whole point. That's why our system has relied on them so much. If you go to like a Waldorf education, they don't rely on tests. And Waldorf is actually really good education. That's really practical. They learn how to sew. They make books. They learn practical skills. But the education isn't about testing. The whole point of using standardized testing is to create a fucking barrier. That's why it's there. And look at him, dude. He looks like he's shitting his pants here. Dude, they're getting paid. I'm sorry. I don't know who's paying them, but I know they're right-wingers. All right. I'm done with these idiots. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching. You like the video, you want to support independent resistance media, you know what to do. Drop that sub, hit the like button, and please share it. And we do love our members, so if you want to become a member, it's another really great way to support. Thanks again for everything, guys. I'll see you next time. Let's go.
Greetings, guys, gals, non-binary pals, and welcome back to another video. A few days ago, a comic strip showed up on my timeline, and then the next day it showed up again, and then the day after that it showed up again, and then again. And maybe I spend too much time on Twitter. I definitely spend too much time on Twitter, but things don't typically show up on my timeline that often without me then deciding I need to make a video about it. So today I am here to talk about some conservative comics, because that is always a good time, because there are so many conservative right-wing comic artists. A lot of them identify as centrist, but they are absolutely not at all centrist, and they just make some weird art, and a lot of it just makes no sense. And I have a fun time looking at it. You all seem to enjoy talking about it as well. So today we're going to be looking at some conservative comics. But before we get into it, I would like to tell you about today's sponsor, Geologie. Geologie is a 36-time award-winning skin, hair, and body care brand, and they make skincare just incredibly easy. I have been working with Geologie for the past, I think, 2.5 years, and I am absolutely obsessed with them. No skincare routine has helped my skin as much as this did. Before I started using Geologie, I was breaking out like really bad. I was in a lot of discomfort and a lot of pain, and I found most like cleansers and things I was using were making it worse. Even ones that were for sensitive skin specifically were causing so much irritation. But then I started using Geologie, and it genuinely made so much difference. My skin cleared up so nicely. How it works is you go onto their website and you take a little skin survey, and it finds the skincare routine that is going to work best for you, and then you get a box with all of the things that you need. It includes 2 cleansers that you use morning and night, a moisturizer for the morning, which includes an SPF, which is very important, an eye cream to help dark circles under your eyes, which is great because if you're like me, sleep is not something that exists in your world. And my favorite part of the entire kit is this retinol night cream. It's so velvety and smooth, and like no moisturizer has ever felt so nice going on my skin. I genuinely am obsessed with it. It's my favorite thing in the entire world, and I rant and rave about it constantly to my friends and family. They also do a bunch of extra stuff like shampoos and conditioners, as well as body wash and some extra skincare products that you can add as well. My favorite being this vitamin C and E serum. It feels so nice on my skin, and it genuinely makes like such a difference to my skincare, and I'm so glad that I introduced it into my daily skincare routine. And if you want to try Geologie out for yourself, which I cannot recommend enough, then you can use my link in the description or scan the QR code up on the screen right now using the code Kiwi70, and you will get 70% off Geologie's award-winning skincare trial kit, as well as an additional 50% off any extra product that you would like. It is such an incredible deal. It is so worth it. Please do go check them out. A massive thank you to Geologie for sponsoring this video. Please don't forget to use that link. It really helps me out as well as helping you out as well. With all of that being said, let's get into the video. We're gonna start off with the comic strip that came up on my timeline, because that feels like a good place to start. Basically, it is homophobia, because of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? And it is a cylinder and a circle hole because that's all we are. And then it's showing that they're in love, and they're standing back and watching this mayhem unfold before them, which is 2 cylinders smacking against each other, 2 circle holes trying to fit into each other, but they can't because the circle holes are square shaped. A cylinder being held and a tool going in to cut the circle out of it. So like the cylinders are solid, and there's a tool coming in to like carve it and turn it into a circle hole. There's a circle hole that's being like soared up. And then just because, you know, we have to also throw in a little bit of like racism here, we have a small circle hole and a very large dark brown cylinder, and it obviously doesn't fit. And the circle hole and the cylinder are huddled together, very scared, as all of the others are like crowding around them. What I'm getting from this is that Stone Toss doesn't understand that sex exists outside of penetration. And that's really sad. It's very unsurprising, but really sad, because if the only thing you know about sex and sexual pleasure is penetration, your sex life is sad and boring. I just find it so funny as well that like these are the people who sit here and tell us queer people that we are sexualizing everything, that we make everything about sex, and how dare we do it. It's disgusting to just exist as a gay person in front of children, because that obviously means we're making everything about sex. And yet they're the ones who make content like this. They are boiling us down to nothing but our parts and how they fit together. We didn't make this about sex. You did. And if us existing as queer people is inherently sexual, and yet you're making art saying that heterosexuality is the only thing that's acceptable because of our genitals, then aren't you the ones then making heterosexuality sexual? I also just love the depictions of sex and obviously transness in this, because none of this is accurate nor makes any sense at all. Again, penetration is not the only form of sex, and also 2 cylinders are having sex. They're having penetrative sex as well, just in a different way. And I like that you avoided that sort of conversation in here. Like, they have circle holes too. And then 2 circle holes, you can get a synthetic cylinder. You know, like the sky's the limit. If you only know how to have sex one way, that is on you. And we're going to now look at another Stone Toss comic, because he's got a few. 93% of protests have been peaceful. And then a redneck with a gun comes in and says, over 99% of gun owners are peaceful. And the protester is pointing at him and going, police? Gun supporters are truly just another level of stupid and ignorant. Like, how many people do protests kill annually? And then how many people do guns kill annually? And how many of the deaths at protest are caused by guns? I don't understand how you can compare these things at all. And it's so wild to me because, like, sure, some protests lead to property damage, but me personally, I don't value property above human lives. And I know a lot of these gun nuts do. They think that if someone is damaging their property, they deserve to be shot, which is the most terrifying thing I've ever heard, and I do not understand how you can think like that at all. But like, protests aren't killing people, and most protests are peaceful. You have like riots after sports games that end so much more violently with so much more property damage than you do in most protests, and yet you're not out here talking about that. Protests are meant to be disruptive. They are meant to make a statement, and the purpose of them is for the greater good. It is standing up for something and trying to have your voices heard in order to make a change. They are disruptive, and maybe like property damage and things take place, but that is to get a message across. It is to show how serious you are about the issue. And ultimately, the purpose of a protest is for a greater good and to make positive change. The purpose of a gun is to kill. That is its singular purpose. The only purpose it has is to kill, not just to cause harm. It is literally designed to kill animals, people, whatever. That is their one purpose. Why do you have a gun if you don't intend to use it to cause harm? You have it for self-defense, sure. Who are you defending yourself against? Other people with guns? Because if you just got rid of them in the first place, you wouldn't need to defend yourself against someone who has one, because they also wouldn't have one. In places that have like strict gun laws, like sure, there are a few outliers who have guns, or the people who have like hunting licenses who have them, but the number of people who have them is very, very few. And so the number of people who are in danger of being shot with one is incredibly low. I've never considered having a gun for self-defense purposes because I've never considered a situation in which I would be confronted by someone who is armed. I don't know the laws here in the UK about like police officers and whatever. I haven't really looked into it, but back in New Zealand, even police officers do not carry guns. They have them for like specific cases and like when they're going into situations where other people are armed, but in general, they don't have guns. That's not a thing that they have. So here we have the devil on TV, and this old man is saying, they're marketing Satan to kids, and his child is saying, you're overreacting, Dad. And then you have Donald Trump on the TV with an American flag and an Israeli flag behind him, and the kid screams, white supremacy! And obviously the purpose of this is we're trying to say it's hypocritical. If we're saying that Donald Trump on TV is promoting white supremacy, then we have to also be saying that the devil on screen is promoting Satanism, I suppose. And I just truly do not understand how people are comparing these things. Like, the complete level of just like pure stupidity and willful ignorance is pretty astounding, because there is one major difference in this, and that is that Satan is fictional and Donald Trump is real. And even if you want to believe in Satan, like even if you believe in that and you are Christian and you believe in the devil or whatever, like that, fine. However, in the context of him being on TV, that is fictional. That's not real. A lot of the time when the devil is like on TV or in the media, he's not being promoted as like the good guy whose morals you should be following in the first place. I feel like we can understand that it's all fictional, you know? Whereas with like Donald Trump being on TV, that is a very real man who holds very real power. He is in charge of like making laws. He is a real person who is influencing real lives. That's kind of the big difference here, is that he is real and he is in a real position of power, and he is actively trying to get through to people and change their opinions on politics. So here we move into a different artist who is G Prime 85, and their art is like a very interesting art style. It's really different to the simplistic style that Stone Toss has. It's very bright and colorful and kind of low-key, a bit terrifying. And this one is these friends who are like laughing together, and this girl is like shooting herself in the head with a water gun. And she posted it online, and it says, your post has been removed for violating guidelines against depictions of self-harm. You may lose access to your account in the future. And then underneath you have someone who has had top surgery, and they're posting their like surgical scars, and it's being met with like likes and retweets and verification and all of that. And listen, I am one who regularly online will make the jokes of like, I'm gonna jump out the window, I'm going to kill myself. Like that is my type of humor. I threaten that shit every day. I feel like a lot of Gen Z people, I feel like a lot of us do that. I feel like there was a period of time in the 2010s where that was like inappropriate, and we all stopped because people were mad about it, and then we all kind of started again. This is where we are now. And like, if my tweet got removed for saying that, which I think actually I've had an Instagram story removed for saying that before, I would laugh, because that's so funny, because I'm joking. I know that I'm joking. And I don't know the context of this top one. I don't know if this is based off of a real story or whatever, but like objectively, it is joking about like self-harm and suicide, which I understand why it might not be friendly on like the internet, you know? I understand why that might be violating a guideline, and that's chill, whatever. The bottom one, however, getting top surgery and showing off your scars, is actually the complete opposite of that. And I know that these people like refuse to understand this no matter how many times we say it, but undergoing a procedure consensually to help better your mental health is actually not self-harm, believe it or not. Like, these people have given their full consent. They've put in a lot of like time that they've had to like wait for it. They had to go through a bunch of appointments, book it in, wait the time. A lot of people have spent a lot of money, like thousands upon thousands of dollars to get this done. And if they haven't, then they've waited like years on a waiting list. So I promise you, they are absolutely certain this is something that they want to do. And a lot of the time undergoing this procedure is helping their physical health as well as their mental health, because like a lot of them will be binding, which, you know, is uncomfortable. Especially during like summer months, and can be quite dangerous. Whereas this is like helping that not happen, for the most part, is making a lot of people's lives a lot better and is actually preventing self-harm and suicide. So just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's a negative thing. It's not promoting self-harm. It's actually just promoting living as your true self and, you know, doing what makes you happy. And I know you hate people being happy, and I know you envy people who are able to do things for themselves and like live a life that they enjoy because you've put yourself in a box that you won't let yourself leave, but like that's your problem. This next post was captioned with "Every time I see someone wear a mask in 2025." It is someone at a grocery shop with a baby and they're wearing a mask. Another person with like a trolley says, "Excuse me, you forgot your bag." And she says, "Oh, sorry," and then puts a plastic bag over her face and like tightens it around her neck and says, "It feels so natural. Sometimes I forget I don't have it on." And then she like passes out and dies on the street while her baby is left behind in a cart. And what an exaggeration this is. Oh my God. I just don't understand why you care. Imagine being so mad at seeing someone wear a mask that you go and make a comment about how stupid they are and how it's like suffocating them and they're gonna die. Like, whoa. How is it any of your concern what other people do? Like, for one thing, wearing masks didn't start during COVID. Masks have been a thing for a long time. I grew up seeing people wearing masks all the time. It's like even outside, people just wear masks. It helps with pollution, for one. And also, it genuinely does help stop you from being sick. Like, I remember in 2020 when everyone was wearing masks and everyone was being like, I haven't gotten sick this year. I haven't gotten the flu. I haven't gotten a cold. And some people, believe it or not, don't want to get sick. Some people can't afford to get sick for a number of different reasons. One, maybe they don't have the time. Two, maybe they just, I don't know, don't enjoy being sick. And three, some people are just like vulnerable. There are people with autoimmune diseases. There are people who are more susceptible to illness and can be very negatively impacted by it. Some people just get sick and they get sick really bad and they don't want to do that. They don't want to risk it. So they wear a mask. And believe it or not, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. Them wearing a mask isn't forcing you to do the same. If you don't want to, fucking fine. Don't. Most people don't. But like, why are you out here hating on someone who does? And then you're gonna sit here and call them like a stupid snowflake? Like giving into government propaganda or anything when the government doesn't give a fuck anymore. And like, they're out here not even telling you to wear a mask anymore. They're just living their life and doing what is best for them. And you're making it your business for no reason. So I would argue you are the snowflake. If you are like neurotypical and able-bodied and you wear a mask and feel like you are suffocating to death, I think you have a problem and you should go check that out, because like that is not normal. Here we're moving into a different comic artist again called Wokely Correct, and we've gone back to a more simplistic style of art. Here we have a person with blue hair and my haircut, because of course they do, with like big glasses, and she is like, I wouldn't say she's fat, but she's not like thin. And she is saying, "Do you agree with every one of my political views?" And the person she's talking to is a woman who is like slim and wearing a nice dress, and she has long blonde hair and big eyes, because of course she does. And she says, "We have to agree on everything." And the blue-haired woman then pulls the finger at her and yells, "Bye, you closed-minded far-right extremist." I love the way they portray this. Like, no, we don't have to agree on absolutely everything. There are some small things that maybe are a little bit inconsequential. However, if the thing we are disagreeing on is the fact that like you don't think I should be able to get married, or you don't think I should have bodily autonomy, then yeah, we're gonna have a problem. Like, why would I want to be friends with someone or interact with someone who doesn't view people as equal, who doesn't think everyone deserves the same rights and respect? Like, that's not a minor disagreement. I don't have any desire to associate with people who don't think I should exist the way I am and have full control over my body and the same legal rights as another person, or the same social rights as another person. If we disagree on that, then yeah, fuck off. I can't say that everyone is like a far-right extremist, because there are obviously varying degrees of that, and I don't want to, like, you know, dilute that term, but I don't want to associate with you. And you know, if you're so against my right to exist and marry who I want, why do you want to associate with me either? I'm not going to be your, like, token gay to be like, I don't hate gay people, I just don't think they should get married. Fuck off. We can disagree on pizza toppings. We can disagree on our favorite colors, our favorite movies, whatever. That's fine. You disagree on my rights as a human being, or anyone's. It doesn't have to be my personal rights. If you disagree on, like, any level of, like, oppression, it's not gonna work out. Here we have live from a courthouse being broadcast on a giant billboard for some reason, saying, "Trump, you guilty AF." Libs, all with blue hair, obviously, gotta love those blue-haired liberals, are then all celebrating. But in the next panel, the judge is carrying on, and he actually says, "Your ass will serve 4 years in the White House." And the blue-haired liberals all stop celebrating and start sweating. I don't understand how we're using this as a flex. Like, why are you here flexing the fact that you voted for a convicted felon? Why are you flexing the fact that the person who runs your country is a literal criminal? That's such a weird thing to flex.
So all of
I
that
don't understand how he's able to be president. Like, I don't understand how he was able to run. I really don't understand how he got the popular vote. And it's completely absurd to me that he can be president when he wouldn't have even been allowed to vote because he is a convicted felon. Like, that's something got real fucked up somewhere. And now we move into another artist. I believe this might be the last artist that I found, and they're called Ford Cartoons. And this one's two men who go, "You wanted to see us, boss?" And he says, "Yes, people are mad at us for your headline. A car has driven into a group of people at a Christmas market in Germany." And they say, "But sir, why are you mad at us?" "Yeah, we didn't write that, our computers did." This is so stupid, because once again, gun nuts are, like, so clueless and so stupid and, like, willfully ignorant. It's hilarious, because obviously this is, like, you know, commentary on the whole argument of, like, us being like, we should ban guns because, you know, people are killing people with guns, and there are thousands of preventable deaths if we just, you know, got stricter gun laws and made it harder for people to obtain them, like the entire rest of the world, you know? And then you have them being like, but it's not the guns that are the problem, it's the people with the guns. The guns don't hurt people, people who pull the triggers do. And if they didn't have guns, they would just kill people anyway in another method, which is not true. It's not true at all, because, you know, there's the fact that guns kill quicker, they work much faster, they require less thought, less planning, they have less of a human connection. Like, you can do that, like, you can kill someone from across the room without having to, like, look into their eyes or think twice about it. It does a lot more damage a lot quicker, etc. There are so many reasons why. Like, if you look at, like, the homicide numbers in, like, the UK versus the States, there's a bit of a difference there, you know? But anyway, back into this. I find it so funny because, like, even in this analogy, it is still proving our point. You could get rid of computers in this situation, right? And you know what would have happened is that the article would have taken longer to write, and it would have been harder to distribute, and it would have reached less people in a much longer amount of time. And I think that summarizes it really nicely, don't you think? Kind of like what I just said. If you have, like, a firearm versus, like, I don't know, a knife, One of them is going to do a lot more damage a lot faster. You wrote the article, correct? But different methods are going to cause varying levels of harm. The difference here, though, is that like guns' only purpose is to hurt, is to kill, as established earlier, and it only does negative things. I literally cannot think of a single positive for guns, like not a single one comes to mind, whereas computers are incredibly beneficial. They actually do a lot more help than harm. They have really helped move society along, and they help get information out there, etc. Yes, sure, some people misuse them, and maybe some people should have less access to computers because they can cause harm. However, they are also incredibly beneficial. So we aren't going to ban computers. Really simple. It's really simple. And the fact that these people just like try to pretend they understand what's going on and they think they're making good points when they are really not is quite amusing. Here are two men having a conversation. It is illogical to believe in God. Then where did everything come from? What do you mean? There was once nothing. Emptiness. Zero existence. Since there was once nothing, there should never be anything. What can come from nothing? Nothing can come from nothing. But now there is everything. The entire universe. Things cannot just pop into existence. There has to be a cause. Sure, it seems like there must have been a cause. And logically, the cause must transcend the space-time universe and be itself uncaused and unbelievably powerful. The only logical cause is God, but I refuse to accept that because it would be illogical. This argument is illogical. In this scenario, God still makes no sense to me. Where did God come from? Like, it's like he always was, he always existed. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Everything has to start somewhere. This is something that hurts my brain so much, so I don't try to think about it. I started thinking about like the existence of the universe and like nothing when I was a kid. It's literally where my anxiety started. So I'm not gonna get too into it or I'll give myself an existential crisis. However, like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. You're so right. How does nothing exist? I don't know. I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable to think about there was nothing and then there was something. I hate it. I understand why maybe some people, that's why they kind of like, you know, believe in a God, because it's terrifying to think that there was nothing, because it means, again, one day maybe there will be nothing. I don't know. It makes no sense. None of it makes sense. But to me as well, a God also makes no sense. It makes less sense, actually, because like, where did God come from? Where did God come from? Because it was nothing and then there was God and then there was something. Like, how did something exist? You know, I don't know how to word it. I don't know how to get into it because none of it makes sense. It confuses my brain and then I spiral. So I'm just not going to think about it. All I'll say is that God doesn't make sense in this scenario to me either, because it brings up the exact same question. So, you know, and also like, does God look over the entire universe? I like have so many questions about religion because it's so focused just on Earth. You know what I mean? Like, does that mean, you know, if God is so focused on Earth and all these like people, I don't know what religions this expands into and how they all view God, but I'll use Christianity since this is a Christian comic. Does this mean like Christians don't believe in aliens? Because God only focused on Earth? Do they believe in the universe outside of like our Milky Way? Is like there multiple gods and they all look over their own galaxy? Does God have like helpers anywhere? Does each planet with life have its own God? I have questions that I've never heard discussed before because they're so focused on God and humanity that I don't know anything about God and anything else. So if you are religious of any sort, please let me know how God deals with just like the universe in general and like other life forms on other planets, because I'm very curious about it. Daddy, why did you vote for Kamala? Oh, I did it for you, my sweet angel, for your rights. So one day you could be free to sleep with as many random losers as you want without any consequences. I'm sorry, what? That was her at the end, by the way. The child, not me. Although I am asking the same question. Maybe in a different tone, but I am asking the same question because what? Like, truly baffling. Oh, there's another version, actually, with her mother as well, of, Mommy, why did you vote for Kamala? "Oh, I did it for you, sweet daughter, so one day you could be free to kill your unborn children." I'm sorry, what? So I'm glad mother and father both have different, equally ridiculous reasons. And I just find it so funny because, like, this is coming from the person who, or the people who voted for a convicted felon for committing, like, sexual crimes to multiple women. And I am almost certain at some point will have gotten a woman pregnant and then paid her off to get an abortion. Probably multiple times, honestly, because that is something these rich men do quite a fair amount. And, like, you voted for him. Because he's an exception to the rule, right? It's so funny how they just justify it. Like, I don't understand how we're justifying this at all and how these reasonings make sense. Like, why is it okay for you to vote for a man who sleeps around and has a lot of sexual partners, but you're upset at the prospect of a woman being allowed to have sexual partners? Why are you already, like, thinking about the sex life of your small child? That's incredibly odd of you. In general, though, I think that these are valid things to want to happen. Like, I don't think you should face consequences for sleeping with people that you want to. And I don't think you should face consequences for having the right to choose what happens to your body. I think those are valid things to be voting for. Are you implying that, like, not only is Trump wanting to take away abortion rights, but also will punish women for having casual sex? What about the random losers? Are they going to face consequences as well? Like, I'm incredibly confused by this take. So, like, what are you talking about? 30 years ago, the Bible is the word of God and I believe what it says. Me too, brother. 15 years ago. The Bible is the word of God and I believe what it says. Whatever. Today. The Bible is the word of God and I believe what it says. Bigot. How long? The Bible is the word of God and I believe what it says. And a police officer is accusing him of hate speech. Next up on the list of made-up bullshit by conservatives, 60% of your country, 60% of the US is Christian. And the 60% that are Christian include the people who are running your country. Like, the Democratic leaders are also Christian. I don't think they're going to make it hate speech to talk about religion. And believe it or not, a lot of people who are liberal or leftists are also religious. They just don't use it to hate people. They actually use it just to apply to themselves and to have faith and have someone, like, guide them. They use it because it's what empowers them and what makes them comfortable and happy. They don't use it to be a bigoted asshole and to hate people and to try to strip their rights like you do. So I need you to shut up because this is not accurate at all. I don't understand why so many of these right-wing conservatives choose to believe that, like, no one is Christian anymore, when it is still a majority of your country. I promise there is not going to be a time where you are accused of hate speech for just saying that you're Christian. I will say it's really fucking annoying when you go up to random people and are like, the Bible is the word of God, will you join? Like, that's fucking annoying. I'm not gonna call it hate speech, but I'll call it shut up and leave me alone. If you are using the Bible to actively speak hatred and spew hatred and bigotry, then yeah, that is hate speech. So maybe just, like, focus on yourself and don't use your religion to bring other people down and we won't have a problem. These comics are always so entertaining. I've never done a video where I, like, talk about multiple different comic artists, but I had quite a good time. So if you want to see more conservative comic artists, then let me know and I will make another one of these. They have so much art. I pulled all of these from, like, these are just things they've posted over the past month. They post so much. Some of them, like, multiple times a day. I don't know where they find the time. And if you have any other suggestions for any other conservative comic artists or just conservative artists in general, please do comment down below and let me know, because I would love to look into them and share that with you so we can suffer and laugh together. If you did enjoy this video, please do not forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. My videos have been really held back in the algorithm recently, so if you interact and like and comment, that would, like, genuinely mean so much. And over 50% of you are regular viewers who watch most of the videos I put out but are not subscribed. So you might think that you are, But if you check right now, there is a 50% chance that you aren't. So please do check and hit subscribe if you aren't already, and click the notification bell so you don't miss any more of my videos. I am hoping to get 500k subscribers by the end of the year, and I would appreciate you helping me to make that happen. A massive thank you to my Kiwi Cat patrons: M.A. Ping the Games, Blue Kitsune 24, Ash, Uh-Oh It's Craiglow, Phil the Duck, Jesse, Phenomenally, River, Mr. Noodle, Queen Glimmer, Ella, Lady Nutbar, Radsack, Knitting Menace, Chris, Ellie, and Bobby. I love and appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for joining. If anyone else would like to become a patron, you go to patreon.com/savvycat. For only £1 a month, you get my videos a day or more early and ad-free. And then for £3 and up, you get things such as outtakes, bonus mini podcasts, live streams, vlogs, friendship bracelets, and more. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, The Queer Kiwi, and Twitter, That Queer Kiwi. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Keep fighting. I love you. Mwah.
When you close your eyes, you replace the darkness with light. You replace the monsters of fairies, you replace them with love.
As the major purge at the Bureau hits an inflection point, a watershed moment over the fight for control of the Panama Canal as Secretary of State Marco Rubio prepares to visit the waterway. And we will discuss...
Hi, hello, welcome back to Even More News, the first, the only news podcast. I'm Katie Stoll, and I'm feeling great.
You are, me too. Me being Cody Johnston on the show. Thank you for welcoming me and us to it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hey, guess
Hello.
what? Jonathan is also here.
Where? Oh, hey, there he is.
Hi, I'm here.
That's our Jonathan.
Not much else to say other than that.
Okay, wow. There sure is a lot of news for us to get to today, folks. But more importantly, let's celebrate.
Yay.
We gotta celebrate.
Something? Is it good? Is it normal? Is it like
these are fine.
Yeah.
We're gonna do these quick. There's too much to get.
Yeah, there
to.
is too
Don't
much.
worry, everybody. There's always time for celebration, but we're gonna get to stuff. Friday, January 31st is Yadrokabelanushin, National Backwards Day. Nick, put this on the screen. Yadrokabelanushin. I don't know, guys. It's national. Everything feels like National Backward Day. Ayo.
Oh, wow. You're right.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Right? When I was learning to drive, when I was learning to drive fresh, I put it in reverse. No, my high school best friend and I would be driving, and our game would be read every sign backwards. It's not a great game, but I remember exit is Tigza.
Mm-hmm.
Pots.
Yep, Pots was a great one. Pots! Pots! Anyway, that's my backwards story. They also suggest, this is important.
Oh.
And this is fun.
Oh.
Eat dessert for breakfast, perhaps?
Not sure that's backwards, but okay.
Yeah, it's not quite backwards.
There's a lot of breakfast foods that are desserts, for sure.
Yes.
Sweet rolls, muffins.
Pancakes are dessert. Many breakfast foods are desserts already.
Okay, and well, that just dovetails quite nicely into our next holiday.
Oh, perfect.
Saturday, February 1st is Ice Cream for Breakfast Day.
Okay.
I
That
do
seems like a bad
sometimes
idea.
have ice cream with breakfast, but not for breakfast, and not a bunch. It's like, I've had my breakfast and I'm just like, I don't want to work yet, but I want a little something. And okay, I'll just go get a spoonful of ice
Is
cream.
it like a spoonful, or is it like you like scoop out a thing and you're like,
Yeah,
here's
to
my
start,
morning
it's
ice cream?
To start, it's a spoonful. No, waffles
To
and
start,
ice
it's
cream
a
are
spoonful. Okay.
I do reserve for a dessert situation. I'm not opposed to it. And when I'm out of milk for my tea, because I like to put a splash of milk in my tea, I'll sometimes take a tiny spoonful of vanilla ice cream.
Like Mrs. Doubtfire. Well, that was icing on a cake, but...
Icing in your coffee?
Well, as long as it drips off a man's face.
No, part of it is that
sticks her face in the
cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know.
your teeth!
Well,
etc.
And so on.
Yeah, and so on and so forth. Do you want to do the scene? Should we do the scene?
We should do the scene. We should do the scene. Okay, everybody, stop the news. Stop the news. We're going to do a scene from Mrs. Doubtfire.
It was a drive-by
and then we'll do the drive-by fruiting.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
the
skip,
one.
skip
That's
ahead to
the
the
one.
one. Yeah.
Run-by fruiting.
And honestly, we could probably do the scene where he's doing the voiceover stuff too, where he cycles through all of the voices.
Oh, yeah, we could
I
do that.
voices. Okay, let's just stop and watch Mrs. Doubtfire. Okay.
Yeah.
That was great, everybody.
What
oh
a
my
sh-
god,
what
it's
a
been so
movie.
long. It's been so long since I've seen Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm so glad we watched that together.
I feel
Oh,
better, actually.
I do too.
I feel much better.
I had ice cream for breakfast once on my birthday when I was a child. My parents let me, and I regretted it. It was
You did.
yeah, it was a delicious peanut butter ice cream chip type of situation.
So good.
But it was a morning, and I was the child, and it didn't.
And your tummy felt a little
Tummy
upsetty.
felt a little upsetty. Yeah, tummy felt a little crummy.
Tummy felt a little crummy. I keep getting a targeted ad for a shirt that says more spaghetti, less upsetty, and I do want it, but I don't want to buy it.
Do you support these shirts that say more spaghetti,
Do
less
you
upsetty?
support-
Do you
Perfect.
support the onesies?
Jonathan,
Do you?
get us on track. We've got so much to get through.
We're recording this on Thursday morning. So last night, to us, there was a collision between an American Airlines jet carrying 60 passengers and 4 crew members and an Army Black Hawk helicopter with 3 soldiers on board. It happened near Reagan International Airport in Washington, D.C., with all the debris crashing down into the Potomac River. Apparently, so far, officials believe there are no survivors. It's the deadliest plane crash in the U.S. since 9/11 and the first deadly U.S. commercial passenger airline crash since February 2009. We don't know, as of the time we're recording this, specifically how this happened, who's to blame. Obviously, a helicopter probably should not have been flying in the landing flight path of a plane. There's a suggestion that the air traffic controller warning came in too late. Lots of stuff going on. A pretty devastating tragedy. And of course, this morning, now we're dealing with the immediate politics of the situation. The right saying it's DEI
Healthy
and
politics?
diversity.
Oh, not healthy politics. Okay.
Well, the Trump administration eliminated the Aviation Security Advisory Committee, froze the hiring of new air traffic controllers. Elon Musk pushed out the FAA administrator because that administrator had been critical of SpaceX's safety record.
Because it was bad.
I would posit that it's a stretch to say that the Trump administration specifically caused this, or that if Kamala Harris was president, it wouldn't have happened. But these actions probably make things like this more likely.
That's where I'm at. I think it's unlike, I don't know. I need more information about specifically what transpired to know if any of these actions directly affected this moment. We don't have that information. It is fucking wild that the helicopter was flying there in the first place. It's hard to wrap my mind around how that kind of information, how there wasn't some sort of a warning in time. It's just hard for me to wrap my mind around how that happens outside of personnel error, but we don't know. And unlike some of these fucks, I don't think it's appropriate quite yet. It's appropriate to be aware of all the things, but we need more information before we start saying loudly and boldly online it's Donald Trump's fault, you know? It's just the way it's bullshit to be up there saying, oh, this is DEI.
I generally agree with that. I do think that I mean there was even a tweet that morning before this even happened of like, yeah, I've been in contact with like people in the FAA and they're like very worried about something exactly like this happening.
Right.
Like it is the chaos, which we'll get to, like all the other stuff that's been going on, but like the chaos that the Trump administration is causing on purpose is the kind of thing that does create situations like this. And I'm not going to be like, oh, because they got rid of this committee, like that's what caused it. Like that's not the case, but it has been a lot of just instability and chaos this past week, really compressed together. And seeing that be a warning that day, and then like 10 hours later, this happens. It's like, oh, yeah. I mean, this probably related in some way. Also, and I'm not out here being like, we need to like take all the tactics of MAGA and Trump and like do them ourselves, and we need to be just like them. I completely disagree with that. But fuck them.
Fuck them.
If it was a different president, they would be the worst people in the fucking world about this.
100%. Well,
they'd
they would
be
probably
mocking
be
everybody. They'd be saying exactly what Donald Trump's saying right now about diversity. They'd be doing all this kind of stuff. Joe Biden did this, whatever. So while I do agree, like, this is a tragedy and we shouldn't be like politicizing it, I'm not like, we don't want to blame the Trump administration because like, fuck them forever. Not an inch for those people.
I agree with you completely, 100%. Fuck them. You are completely correct. I'm just saying, I want to be the kind of person that says things when I know that they're accurate.
Oh, totally.
And what I do know is accurate is that all this shit has been happening this week exactly as you just described it. And yeah, this is the kind of shit that happens. But I need some more information before I'm going to tell you one thing or other. But these kinds of accidents will happen.
Oh, well, also there's a messaging issue from the Democrats, and the attention economy is owned by people like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and whatever they say becomes the truth. Trump's out there saying like, oh, there's the diversity and whatever, and it's like that's what so many people are gonna like. It was. And I think that in the coming weeks and months and however long, it's important to hammer home the things that Donald Trump is doing and trying to do and the effects that we will see from it. Like, this may not be his fault, but this kind of thing will be.
Yes.
And this kind of thing will be happening because of all the things they want to do. There's so many aspects of the government, of the federal government, that people don't really think about. That they're involved in, that we're probably going to talk about it, like all these people like losing jobs, losing like benefits, losing all this funding and things that like they rely on that we don't think about, and they're just going to try to get rid of it all. And we're going to see all these domino effects like this, and I think it's important to start pointing that out as early as possible, so that when things like this
100%.
do happen more, or somebody else loses their job for this reason or this reason, they will remember like, oh yeah, he's dismantling the federal government before our very eyes and getting rid of all these regulations, getting rid of all these safety regulations, and getting rid of all these programs that help people with all these types of jobs. They help people survive things. They help people live. They help people get through their day. They help people in all these ways we don't understand. And I just think that getting out ahead of this in an honest way, because like you're saying, like he didn't fire the committee and then they were like, crash more planes. But this is
there was clearly a breakdown of communication at some point last night.
Yeah,
but we don't know what that looks like or how.
We don't know that this is a failure of the administrative state, but it's a harbinger for the future failure of the administrative state, with the FDA, the USDA, with Medicare, with all of these different things. And of course, we'll talk about the budget thing.
Yes.
I do want to point out that pilots, FAA officials, air traffic controllers have been bringing up stuff like this for a while, going back years.
Okay.
The GOP has wanted to privatize air traffic control for a decade. I Googled it this morning, and there's an article from 2015, GOP pushes to privatize air traffic control. That kind of thing, outsourcing it so there is not a central place with a consistent standard, is going to lead to more stuff like this.
Yes.
None of us, I think, trust a privatized for-profit air traffic control. I don't even know what that would look like.
And those companies get away with it too. More.
Right. I mean,
right.
At least then you sue a company when this happens and not the federal government. But like, that doesn't bring people's lives back. The FAA last year increased its hiring of air traffic controllers. In September 2024, they said they'd met their goal of hiring 1,800 in the previous fiscal year. Independent of DEI, right? They hired 1,800 people to work as air traffic control, an incredibly stressful, intense job.
Stressful, yeah.
There are a lot of fail-safes in place to prevent this kind of thing from happening, and there's going to be a lot of finger-pointing going around when we find out which specific fail-safe broke on this one. Okay, so Trump, He gave a press conference this morning, which I will play a clip from in a minute. I do want to read his initial statement on Truth Social. And I think I kind of forgot about this stuff, that there would be an official statement from the White House, which is like our hearts go out to blah, 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 like a presidential statement. And then on Truth Social last night, he truths, the airplane was on a perfect and routine line of approach to the airport. The helicopter was going straight at the airplane for an extended period of time. It is a clear night. The lights on the plane were blazing. Why didn't the helicopter go up or down or turn? Why didn't the control tower tell the helicopter what to do instead of asking if they saw the plane? This is a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Not good. Like he's a podcaster.
I know.
Like he's a
It's just
podcaster. Like he's not the president of the United States. Someone's to blame. It's like he frames it like who fucked up versus if, to Cody's point earlier, if it was Joe Biden in office, all that they would be saying is this is Joe Biden's fault. This is Joe Biden's fault. But he does this, so it makes it sound like he's trying to figure out the conspiracy too.
He's just posting, and it's just like it's expected, and we should all remember that this is what it's like, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, just the fact that every time anything happens, it's like just a guy who's like, "What's going on here? I watched the video and I don't understand it." You're the president, man. Like, go get a briefing about it. Like, go do your fucking job and then communicate to people. I don't expect him to do that. Obviously, we all experienced the first term, but it is just
and hammer that message home, right? We don't know what caused this. It's too early to say, but this happened on your watch. You're the president. What are you going to do about it? And the answer is no more lady pilots, I guess.
Diversity, yeah.
Astounding. All right, let's hear this clip.
All right.
Let's hear the worst person in the world, second worst person in the world talk about.
I already know. I already welled up with rage from this earlier, so let's do it again.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. We then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
I
think it's so fucking enraging. Shocking. It shouldn't be shocking. But
no, that's the thing. It's like it's shocking, but every time he does something like this, like, well, of course,
under investigation.
He's a monster.
To now say like, well, the reason he's saying, well, it seems like the controllers, the problem wasn't there because he knows that looks bad on him with all of this stuff, whether it was his fault or not. But he knows that looks bad because of all of his bullshit that he's done. And so now you're saying it must be the dead people, the people that just died, your service members
still under investigation
that just died. That must be diversity. So, the pilots. Okay, so the dead people. Got it.
If they find out, if it comes out that the pilot of the Black Hawk helicopter was a minority or a woman, that person's entire name is going to be dragged through the mud around a huge chunk of the country. It's
really disgusting.
Disgusting. He's also acting so immediately defensive. He's acting like he's pretending that everyone's treating him the way he would treat Biden if this happened. He's like, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. It's like, okay, no one's saying you crashed the plane. What do you know? What are we going to do about it?
Grow up, man. You're the fucking president of the United States.
Again.
Be a president. Be presidential. Who cares what people... Just fuck it.
But obviously he's the unchanging man. Like, we're not, it's just like... It's just frustrating to see such disgusting behavior on display again. And people love it. That's really disappointing.
Jonathan, tell us what was going on with this fucking funding freeze situation.
Yeah, I'm going to try to go through the timeline here. Feel free to interrupt me, of course, because as usual, it's like a 3-day timeline that has 15 stupid things in it.
It's a whole season of a show.
So the Office of Management and Budget, part of the federal government, sent out a memo on Monday night to all federal agencies saying they need to, quote, temporarily pause all activities related to obligation or disbursement of all federal financial assistance to make sure that funding is in line with Trump's priorities and the executive orders. But that memo was very vague and caused widespread confusion because the federal government pays for a lot of stuff in financial assistance, in grants and loans, potentially totaling $3 trillion. So all of these different agencies were wondering, do we need to stop pay? Or are we not going to get paid? Do we have to shut down? I just want to give a sense of the scope of how much would have been affected by this. Federal grants and loans and financial assistance goes to Head Start early childhood development, school lunches for underprivileged kids.
This fun.
America.